It's because I'm feeling gross. So.
Hello, Jordan Chariton live. 10:15 in the morning, East Coast time. And today might be the first day of, if it was the political revolution in 2016, might it now be the political destination in 2020? Hope everyone's doing well. If I woke up around 5:30 a.m., nothing going on. Then I went back to bed. I wake up again. I think it was like 6:30, and Senator Bernard Sanders announces that he is running for president again, 2020. He announced it first on Vermont Public Radio, telling his constituents, obviously in Vermont, that he was running for the first. Wanted to tell them first, and then he spoke to CBS Morning News, talking about what would be different this time.
Just so that you guys know, that drilling is they're working on some construction, so don't trip.
Yes. So I would use the drilling that you might hear as a symbol for what Bernie Sanders will be up against. If you think Bernie was up against it in 2016, you ain't seen nothing yet, which we're about to show you. So, you know the drill. You gotta press the like button. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see the live stream. Unfortunately, YouTube has been suppressing the I can't curse. YouTube has been suppressing this channel and other channels. So we need you to help us get this out to as many people as possible. Pressing the like button, I don't know why, but in the algorithm, the more people that press the like button, the more people that see the live stream. Even if you dislike me, just press the like button. Just press the like button. That's all we ask. So press the like button. The other thing is, many of you are obviously already donating to Bernie's campaign. Obviously, that's fantastic. If you support him, let me tell you, we want to cover Bernie's campaign. We'd also like to cover Tulsi's campaign. We'd also like to cover Senator Warren's campaign. I'd also like to respectfully ask Kamala Harris, Senator of California, some questions. I'd like to respectfully ask Amy Klobuchar, i.e. eat your broccoli. Nothing progressive is possible in America. If you saw that town hall last night, it's like my mother who used to tell me, no, you cannot go ride your bike across the street. It's 5 o'clock. So we want to cover the campaign. You can help us do it by becoming a member to Status Coup. I just put the link in the live stream, statuscoup.com/join. This is how we grow. This is how we get in the field. This is how we cover Bernie's campaign, Warren's campaign, and all of the 2020 campaign, not just from our makeshift studio here, but in the field, on the road, because frankly, Bernie Sanders, as well as other progressives, are going to be up against unprecedented propaganda, which is already beginning today. So I just put the link in there. It's statuscoup.com/join, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You could also support us, our GoFundMe, which is now at 43,000. 43,000. Wait, I could show you. Oh, did I not do a screen share? Damn it. Hold on one second. The screen's going to go black for 1 second. Screen share. Google. Here we go. So we're now at 43,439. So let's see. Maybe during this live stream we could get to 44,000. I think it's possible. So I'm putting the link right there in the GoFundMe again, and let's get to Bernie's. Oh, oops. Let's get to Bernie's announcement video. It's a little long, but I thought it was very, very strong. So here is Bernie Sanders' announcement video announcing his run for the presidency.
Hi, I'm Bernie Sanders. I'm running for president, and I'm asking you today to be part of an unprecedented grassroots campaign of 1 million active volunteers in every state in our country. Our campaign is not only about defeating Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in modern American history. It is not only about winning the Democratic nomination and the general election. Our campaign is about transforming our country and creating a government based on the principles of economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. Our campaign is about taking on the powerful special interests that dominate our economic and political life. I'm talking about Wall Street, the health insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, the military-industrial complex, the private prison industry, and the large multinational corporations that exert such an enormous influence over our lives. Our campaign is about redoubling our efforts to end racism, sexism, homophobia, religious bigotry, and all forms of discrimination. Our campaign is about creating a vibrant democracy with the highest voter turnout of any major country on earth, while we end voter suppression, Citizens United, and outrageous levels of gerrymandering. Our campaign is about creating a government and economy that works for the many, not just the few. We are the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. We should not have a grotesque level of wealth inequality in which 3 billionaires now own more wealth than the bottom half of the country. We should not have 30 million Americans without any health insurance, even more who are underinsured, and a nation in which life expectancy is actually in decline. We should not have an economy in which tens of millions of workers earn starvation wages and half of older workers have no savings as they face retirement. We should not have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, and a dysfunctional child care system which is unfair to both working parents and their children. We should not have a regressive tax system in which large profitable corporations like Amazon pay nothing in federal income taxes. Make no mistake about it. The powerful special interests in this country have unbelievable power, and they want to maintain the status quo. They have unlimited amounts of money to spend on campaigns and lobbying, and have huge influence over the media and political parties. The only way we will win this election and create a government and an economy that works for all is with a grassroots movement, the likes of which has never been seen in American history. They may have the money and the power. We have the people. That is why we need 1 million Americans who will commit themselves to this campaign. You know as well as I do that we are living in a pivotal and dangerous moment in American history. We are running against a president who is a pathological liar, a fraud, a racist, a sexist, a xenophobe, and someone who is undermining American democracy as he leads us in an authoritarian direction. I am running for president because now more than ever, we need leadership that brings us together, not divides us up. Women and men, Black, white, Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, young and old, native born and immigrant. Now is the time for us to stand together. I'm running for president because we need leadership that will fight for working families and the shrinking middle class, not just the 1%. We need a president who understands that we can create millions of good-paying jobs, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and constructing the affordable housing we desperately need. I am running for president because we need trade policies that reflect the interests of workers and not multinational corporations. We need to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, provide pay equity for women, and guarantee all workers paid family and medical leave. I'm running for president because we need to understand that artificial intelligence and robotics must benefit the needs of workers, not just corporate America and those who own that technology. I'm running for president because a great nation is judged not by how many billionaires and nuclear weapons it has, but by how it treats the most vulnerable, the elderly, the children, our veterans, the sick, and the poor. I'm running for president because we need to make policy decisions based on science, not politics. We need a president who understands that climate change is real, is an existential threat to our country and the entire planet, and that we can generate massive job creation by transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel and into energy efficiency and sustainable energy. I'm running for president because the time is long overdue for the United States to join every other major country on earth and guarantee health care to all people as a right, not a privilege, through a Medicare for all single-payer program. I am running for president because we need to take on the outrageous level of greed of the pharmaceutical industry and lower prescription drug prices in this country. I'm running for president because we need to have the best educated workforce in the world. It is totally counterproductive for our future that millions of Americans are carrying outrageous levels of student debt while many others cannot afford the high cost of higher education. That is why we need to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and lower student debt. I am running for president because we need real criminal justice reform. We need to invest in jobs and education for our kids, not more jails and incarceration. We need to end the destructive war on drugs, private prisons, and cash bail, and bring about major police department reform. I'm running for president because we need to end the demonization of undocumented immigrants in this country and move to comprehensive immigration reform. We need to provide immediate legal status for the young people eligible for the DACA program and develop a humane policy for those at the border who seek asylum. I'm running for president because we must end the epidemic of gun violence in this country. We need to take on the NRA, expand background checks, end the gun show loophole, and ban the sale and distribution of assault weapons. I am running for president because we need a foreign policy which focuses on democracy, human rights, diplomacy, and world peace. The United States must lead the world in improving international cooperation in the fight against climate change, militarism, authoritarianism, and global wealth inequality. That is why we need 1 million people to join our campaign and help lead the movement that can accomplish all of these goals. Needless to say, there is a lot of frightening and bad news in this world. Now, let me give you some very good news that we should all be very proud of. 3 years ago, during our 2016 campaign, when we brought forth our progressive agenda, we were told that our ideas were radical and they were extreme. We were told that Medicare for all, a $15 an hour minimum wage, free tuition at public colleges and universities, aggressively combating climate change, demanding that the wealthy start paying their fair share of taxes. We were told that all of these concepts were ideas that the American people would never accept. Well, 3 years have come and gone, and as a result of millions of Americans standing up and fighting back, all of these policies and more are now supported by a majority of Americans. Together, you and I and our 2016 campaign began the political revolution. Now it is time to complete that revolution and implement the vision that we fought for. So here is my question for you. Will you stand with me as part of a million-person grassroots movement which can not only win the Democratic nomination, not only win the general election, but most importantly, help transform this country so that finally we have a government that works for all of us and not just the few. Together, we can create a nation that leads the world in the struggle for peace and for economic, racial, social, and environmental justice. And together, we can defeat Donald Trump and repair the damage he has done to our country. Brothers and sisters, if we stand together, there is no limit to what we can accomplish. I hope you'll join me. Thank you very much.
Always forget to turn the microphone back on. All right. Let me know if you could hear me. That was Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, and he obviously, a lot of things that he just said, a lot of things. Can you hear me now? Okay. A lot of things that he just said in that campaign announcement were very similar to 2016, but there's a few things that I noted were a little bit different. First, he spoke specifically about automation and how automation is essentially making us a jobless economy. He talked about that a little bit on the campaign trail in 2016. I probably covered when I was at the Young Turks. Now I'm at status quo, baby. Status quo. He talked about it a little bit on the campaign trail, but not as much as he could have talked about it. So automation taking jobs, I think that was interesting that he pointed that out in the campaign video. I think he's going to point that out a lot more on the campaign trail, because that's something that, whether you're a progressive, a neoliberal, a Republican, robots, and you go to Walmart, you go to movie theaters, you go everywhere, machines are taking over for tellers and for human beings. So everybody knows that, and it's basically making us a jobless economy, because the United Corporations of America, as I always say, we are not the United States of America. We are the United Corporations of America, looks at human beings, looks at workers as numbers on a balance sheet, rather than humans who have needs for a living wage, health care, to actually feed and live for themselves and their children. He also talked about racial and social justice, which I think from people I've spoken with in Bernie's orbit, whenever I say people I speak with in Bernie's orbit, that means people that work for Bernie. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal sources, but I know people in Bernie's circle. Obviously, in 2016, listen, the deck was so far rigged against him, which I'm going to get to more. The deck was so far rigged against him that it's where do you even start? But one of the ways they rigged the primary was the beginning of the 2016 primary. They front-loaded all of the southern states, which are heavily black voters, in front early on. And that disadvantaged Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders was not really a name well known in black community in South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. I could go on and on. The Clintons, right or wrong, were a name pretty known in the African American community, and honestly, older black women, by and large, were very, very strong and loyal to the Clintons and Hillary Clinton. Well, now Bernie Sanders is known nationally. There's obviously a hell of a lot of propaganda going on already with CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But Bernie Sanders is a known quantity now. So he knows, as a white person, I'm not going to speak here and condescend, and Ty will join me in a few minutes. I'm not going to speak and condescend about, Bernie's policies will actually disproportionately help black people. It doesn't really matter what a white person says. Black people are like white voters too. They care about, is somebody actually fighting for them economically? They care about a higher minimum wage. They care about health care. They care about education being affordable. They care about these things. They also have different desires and different needs than white people. Safety, equality, equal opportunity, not getting shot wearing a hoodie, and these things. But I think what Bernie Sanders this time is going to do is really, really, really aggressively go in to those African-American communities and not pander to them, not be like other Democratic candidates that just go into churches and, around election time, because we see that. The Democratic Party largely goes into black communities during election time, tells them they're going to lift, spread the oceans and finally fight for them. Then black people elect Democrats, and then the Democrats never do anything for them. I think what Bernie Sanders is going to do is, instead of talking differently to black communities, I think he's going than he does the white communities or the Northeast or whatever. I think he's just going to go into black communities more. And I wanted to show you a clip. Because the national media didn't really cover this. Most candidates that lose a nomination, most candidates that lose the presidency, they kind of like lick their wounds and don't do much for a few years. Bernie Sanders, since losing the nomination in 2016, which frankly was totally rigged against him, and I think he would have beat Donald Trump. I think the polling shows he would have beat Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders has been barnstorming the country. He has been barnstorming the country from the east to the west. Thank you, Catface $2. Super chat. So Jordan, who do you think will be Bernie's VP? Hey, Catface, you're getting ahead of yourself. I'll get to that a little bit later, but this is going to be a long live stream, so I'll get to that a little bit later. First, I want to show you what he's up against. But I have thoughts on who will be his vice president, but that's a long way down the road. And by the way, folks, this, I understand everybody only has so much money, and a lot of you have already donated to Bernie. We don't have the funding as a network yet to cover a full campaign. We don't have the funding to cover half a campaign. We don't have the funding to cover a quarter of a campaign. So there's two options right now. We need people to become Status Coup members, and I'll put the link in the live chat right now, statuscoup.com/join. You could become a Status Coup member as low as $5 a month. You could become a Status Coup member as low as $10 a month. I don't want to get into full details now because I want to focus on Bernie. I'll get to that later. But this is how we're going to grow. This is how we're going to have enough funding and resources to actually cover Bernie rallies. I want to cover Tulsi too. By the way, for those of you who have asked me, I have a standing request to Congresswoman Gabbard's office for an interview. They have gotten back to me. They are interested. So now it's just about scheduling that interview. So I'm not exclusively trying to raise money only to cover Bernie Sanders in the field. We have plans to cover Tulsi in the field. We would probably cover Warren in the field. We would probably go to a Senator Harris event or two if they'll let us in. I don't know about that. And Amy, nothing progressive is possible. Klobuchar. We're going to cover the whole gamut because it's not enough just to show you Bernie and Tulsi and Warren. We got to hold the centrist, moderate, faux, fake progressives accountable because CNN ain't going to hold them accountable. So consider becoming a member for as low as $5 a month, for as low as $10 a month. You also get bonus behind the scenes content. Right now, we're at 193 members. That's to go with, I think we have 320 on Patreon. But we're really trying to focus, if you're not anything, if you're not a patron, we want you to sign up as a member to our website. So consider becoming a member for as low as $5 a month. What do you spend $5 on a day? What do you spend $10 on a week? What do you spend $20 on a month? Because we have a $5 monthly, $10 monthly, $20 monthly, or you could sign up annually at $147 a year. I'll get to that later because I don't want to make this too much about status quo. So I want to show you a clip that most of you might remember. Bernie Sanders, since 2016, has been making inroads with black communities by not pandering to black people, but by providing the same economically populist progressive message. And this is the difference between Bernie Sanders and other candidates that go in and have a tailored message to African Americans. What Bernie Sanders understands is it's not about coming up with some poll-tested bullshit thing to try and appease black people or be extra unique to black people. Black people like Bernie Sanders' message when they hear it, but they just need to hear it more in front of them. So here is a clip from Bernie Sanders I think it was in 2017 when he went down to stand with the workers down in Mississippi who were on strike at the Nissan factory. Here we go.
I don't have to explain to anybody here what's been going on in our country, in Vermont, in Mississippi, all over this country for 40 years. And what's been going on is the great middle class of this country has been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. In this state of Mississippi, in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, 30% of the beautiful children are living in poverty. In America, half of older workers have nothing in the bank as they prepare for retirement. In this country, moms and dads can't afford quality child care for their kids. And we have teachers here who are working 2 or 3 jobs in order to make a living. This is America. This is the greatest country in the history of the world, and all of our people deserve decent wages and decent benefits. What this struggle is about is a struggle for dignity. What Nissan understands, and what many of your state elected officials understand who are siding with Nissan, is that their preference is that Nissan continue to make huge profits, Nissan continue to pay its CEO $9 million a year, but somehow Nissan is unable to provide decent wages and decent working conditions here in Canton, Mississippi. So we say to Nissan, it's great that your CEO makes $9 million. It's great that you made $6 billion in profit, but you know what? Share some of that wealth with your workers. Now, the reason that we see opposition to unions here in Mississippi, and in fact all over the country, is because unions work in providing increased wages and benefits. Benny Thompson made this point, and it's a true point. If you are a member of a union in America, you are going to make 27% more on average than a non-union worker. If you are a member of a union, you're far more likely to have paid family and medical leave. If you are a member of a union, the likelihood is you're going to have a better retirement plan and a better health care plan than non-union members. What Nissan and the big...
So I wanted to show you that clip. And thank you. I see more people are giving to the super chat. Thank you. We kind of prefer GoFundMe because, my God, YouTube takes 30% of our money, of your money that you're donating to the super chat. So there's the GoFundMe link one more time. So why I wanted to show you this is what the corporate media and the Democratic Party plutocrats and the DNC, what they want to frame this as. And I'm speaking as a white person. So if you're an African American, you're perfectly welcome to disagree with me in the super chat. If I see your comment, I'll read it. But what they don't understand, and I don't think this is a racist or thing to say, or this is not a sexist thing to say, this is just facts. It's not enough. It doesn't make you a qualified candidate or the candidate of the moment because you're black. That doesn't mean you represent the voting base of the Democratic Party. You always hear this corporate talking point in CNN and the New York Times. You know, Bernie's kind of out of step with the changing demographic, the changing face of the Democratic Party. But just because a face looks different than Bernie Sanders, just because a gender is different than Bernie Sanders, just because an age is different than Bernie Sanders, doesn't matter. Do you know what proves that? Bernie Sanders' predominant voter in 2016 was 18 to 34. 18 to 34. So they don't look like Bernie Sanders. Many of them were women. Many of them were black, which the corporate media wouldn't tell you. Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton among African Americans under the age of 30. He also won Latinos under the age of 30. So this notion, and by the way, 435 people are watching, only 250 of you have liked. So we need, let me do the math, we need 200 more likes. The more people that like this live stream, the more people that will see this live stream. Unfortunately, YouTube suppresses channels like Status Coup and other progressive channels, so we need you. In the algorithm, when you press the like button, for whatever reason, more people see the live stream. Even if you don't like me, even if you're a troll, if you're here, smash the like button. Do me a favor. Smash the like button. Let's get that up to 450. So, being black doesn't mean you're in step with the Democratic Party. I'll give you an example. I liked Stacey Abrams' speech where she gave a reaction to the State of the Union. Okay, that's great. I like her. She made history as the Democratic nominee for governor in Georgia. Frankly, she won the election. It was stolen from her, which I covered. But on policy, Stacey Abrams is kind of slightly left of center. She's not capital P progressive. She's not pushing hard for Medicare for all. She's not pushing hard for free public college. She's not pushing hard for ending private prisons and all these things. So that doesn't make her a bad person. That doesn't mean she couldn't be a candidate for governor. She wouldn't be a better better governor in Georgia than that horrible, horrible, corrupt man that became governor. But just because she is black does not mean she is automatically in step with Democratic voters. Do you know what shows what candidate is in step with the Democratic Party's voters or voters overall? It's not what color is their skin. It's not what body parts they have. It's not how old they are. Is read the polls. Read the polls. Read the polls. I don't know, you know, James, what was his name? James Carville said it's the economy, stupid. Read the polls. Because I can tell you, I've been to Flint, I've been to East Chicago, I was just in Detroit, I've been to Chicago, I've been to St. Louis, I've been to Alabama, I've been to a hell of a lot of predominantly African American communities. It's not anecdotal. I have interviewed probably at this point hundreds of black people, activists, citizens. I'm not speaking for black people. I recognize my white privilege, but I will tell you this. The majority of these people, okay, like the policies that Bernie Sanders is advocating for. The majority of these people, when I just went to Detroit to cover General Motors laying off 15,000 people after a $51 billion bailout from the federal government, after saving $514 million from Trump's tax giveaway, after making $8.1 billion. And that reporting was made possible by you. That reporting was made possible by you, by being members, by GoFundMe. Ty and I were just there. You might not even have known we were there because YouTube didn't show you. Those videos are up on this channel as well as statuscoup.com. The point is, those black union workers that I spoke to, those black auto workers that I have spoken with, those black community activists in Flint, Detroit, this and that, they don't automatically love Kamala Harris. Want to know how I know? Because I've asked. A lot of them actually criticize black political leaders on the local level for selling them out. So being black, if you're Kamala Harris, or being a woman, if you're Elizabeth Warren, or being whatever, what's this guy's name? The mayor of South Bend, Indiana, Pete Buttigieg. He's 37. None of that shit matters anymore. And the Democratic Party so wants to run on identity politics. Do you want to know why? And by the way, I will argue with anyone who says the phrase identity politics is racist. Because when I've said identity politics in the past, it's been racist. No. Identity politics is a way to deflect, distract from the actual policy issues, which are the majority of this country is living paycheck to paycheck. Half the country is near or at the poverty level. The majority of this country cannot afford a $400 emergency. CEOs in this country now make 300 times their workers. That's not a democracy. That's not a republic. That's an oligarchy. And frankly, if you go to community after community like I do, we are living in a mafia system. And that's why the corporate media plays identity politics. That's why you want to talk about free airtime. CNN gave Donald Trump, I believe it was $3 to $5 billion in free airtime. Well, have you noticed how much free airtime they've given Kamala Harris so far? And by the way, can I mention something? And I told Ty, I admitted this, that I feel I'm being a little hypocritical. You got to be honest to the audience, and you got to be honest with yourself. So when Barack Obama ran for president, I was hoodwinked, like many of you in the live chat. And Michael Cooper, who is a volunteer for Status Coup, who's moderating the chat, please keep pumping out the GoFundMe and the membership link, because I can't do three things at once. Thank you. You can become a member as low as $5 a month to Status Coup. That's how we're going to be able to cover Bernie's campaign. That's also a way that we could go for larger funding to show how many paid members we have. So if you got $5, if you got $10 a month, that is how we grow. But what's so interesting to me is, you start seeing Kamala Harris 24 hours after she announces, get a 1-hour infomercial. I mean, that was an embarrassment, CNN's town hall with her. They didn't ask one question about why she didn't prosecute Steve Mnuchin. They let her basically skate around on Medicare for All. They didn't point out, hey, like in December last year, like 2 months ago, you were for free public college. So why is it now debt-free college? Maybe because Hillary Clinton's donors weren't happy with her? Why is it that 6 months after becoming a senator in California, you were meeting with Hillary Clinton's top donors in the Hamptons? Why is it that if you're for Medicare for All, as you say, Senator Harris, I feel very strongly about it? Well, you didn't feel strongly about it when you were running for California senator. If you live in California and are watching, it was up for possibly becoming law in California. It passed the California House, single payer. California would have been the first state in the country to have a state single payer system. Kamala Harris, crickets on single payer when she was running. Now all of a sudden she's running for president. Kamala Harris loves single payer. And I'm not going to name who, but I asked a pretty high level source in California. She's a member of the union movement there. She was very active in the fight for Medicare for All. I said to her, hey, I'm doing some research. I can't find anything. Did Kamala Harris mention Medicare for All when she was running for Senate in California? Was she for Medicare for All? The person wrote back to me, of course not. Are you kidding? She'll say anything now. Well, that about says it all, right? That about says it all. So the bottom line is, you're already hearing this bizarro world, this bizarre and ridiculous analysis by the corporate media. Oh, well, this is what CNN's saying. Well, the problem with Bernie is well, he's already moved all of the candidates to the left. So now he's accomplished his goal. The party's moved to the left. So kind of is there space for him anymore? What? You have CNN talking about, well, is Bernie does he have a lane now? Because all the other candidates basically agree with him and are proposing his policies. Why in the world would the OG, Bernie Sanders is the OG, if you know what I mean. Bernie Sanders is the original. Bernie Sanders has been consistent on this, not as early as 2016, not as early as 2012, not as early as 2008, not as early as 2004, not as early as 1995, as early as the 1970s he's been saying this. But now, because other candidates are, keyword, saying they are for these things, all of a sudden, Bernie Sanders, does he really have a lane anymore? Does he have a lane? Here's the question, and the corporate media never covers this. I don't give a damn what Kamala Harris says she's for. I don't care what Kirsten Gillibrand says she's for. I don't care what Julian Castro says he's for. I don't care what, Amy Klobuchar, Minnesota Nice, who sat there during her town hall yesterday and basically told college kids, don't dream big. Nothing important is possible. I want to get things done now. The slow, gradual death of incrementalism. Travis Jones, I'm now into Status Coup for $10 a month, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. Travis, I'm feeling pretty good about you. And encourage the 515 people watching. Let me tell you something. Between Patreon and website membership, we now have 515 total members. Now 516 since you just signed up. If we get to 1,000 members as soon as possible, we're going to have a really strong base of revenue so that we could cover Bernie's rallies, Tulsi rallies, Warren rallies, Kamala Harris rallies. I know a lot of you complain, like, Jordan, stop begging for money. Would you rather me have secret meetings with Democratic Party donors? Would you rather me have meetings with Republican Party donors? Would you rather me have meetings with, like, movie executives that donate to the Democratic Party? Would you rather me have meetings with big real estate developers destroying your communities and gentrifying the hell out of everybody? Thank you, Tara May, $5 in the super chat. Would you rather me have meetings with bankers? Would you rather me have meetings with oil executives? I have no shame begging you, the audience, for a grassroots media revolution. Because let me tell you something, folks. I got news for you. And this isn't to be arrogant. This is just, it is what it is. In 2016, when I reported on the campaign trail at that time for the Young Turks, I covered probably 20 to 30 Bernie rallies. I covered probably 40 to 50 Trump rallies. I was the only, keyword, only independent media journalist at any of these rallies. I rarely saw Democracy Now! I rarely saw The Intercept. I rarely saw fill in any other independent outlet you could think of. Not because they don't want to cover it, because they don't have the money to cover it. And the Young Turks, frankly, I don't know their situation now. I don't know if they have the money to cover a full campaign. So if you don't have actual independent media out there, if you don't have independent media to hand the microphone to Bernie Sanders supporters or Tulsi Gabbard supporters or even Warren supporters, his movement, you cannot have a movement only based on tweets. You need to see the real victims of the United Corporations of America, and that's the voters. That's the supporters, whether it's Bernie supporters, and it's not just about domestic issues. We need to get Tulsi's voice out there. We need to get the voices of America out there that want us to stop these wars, that want us to stop coup d'etats in Venezuela and Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan and Somalia and Pakistan, and I mean, name your pick. Noam Chomsky once said, the media is all about manufacturing consent. Well, you know how you counter that? By having an alternative media. But you can't have an alternative media that just there's a huge place for Jimmy Dore, Kyle Kalinske, Mike from the Humanist Report, Jamarl Thomas, Lee Camp. Not knocking them, love them all. And I encourage you to watch all those channels. But you also need journalism in the field to counter the propaganda that CNN, MSNBC is selling, because that's the only way. I got news for you. Bernie's going to have to win more than just the progressive base. He's going to have to pick off some establishment voters that voted for the Hillary Clintons of the world. He's also going to have to pick off some Trump supporters, which I think he will be able to do. So, 527 of you watching, 437 likes. We need 100 more likes. Let me show you some of the information here. When CNN asks, does Bernie have a lane? Does Bernie have a lane? I want to show you the exit polls. From the 2018 midterm. Gun policy, 11%. Economy, 21%. Immigration, 23%. Look at the biggest source of care and interest. What do people care most about? In at least the voters who voted, what do they care the most about? That would be health care. Health care. Well, who do voters want to vote for? Do they want to vote for Sherrod Brown, who's Medicare buy-in, and Medicare access or Medicare extra or whatever the hell the incrementalists are proposing these days. What do they want to? Hold on, Ernest Ogala, not going to donate and give 10% of my donation to a bank. I'm glad you brought that up, Ernest, because Status Coup does not have an account with a bank. We have an account with a credit union. We will not be in business with the banks that are investing in these pipelines. Hey, Daniel Benny just signed up as a member. Let's do this, Jordan. Thank you so much, Daniel. Can't appreciate it more. Enjoy the content, because you're not just signing up as a member and getting nothing. We have a lot of behind-the-scenes content. Go to statuscoup.com. You'll click on all the members. It's called Members Exclusive. That's how I headline it. We don't belong to a bank. We belong to a federal credit union. And I encourage all of you to do the same. Don't support these pipelines. Don't support these fracked gas things that are destroying the economy. Don't support these banks that are heavily invested in pharmaceutical companies. Lead by example. But do you think the people that 41% of which, and by the way, it's higher than 41%, the majority of non-voters, part of why they're not voting is because they know nobody's serious about healthcare. But do you really think that it's going to be attractive to the voters who are literally, some of them dying for healthcare, for, Julian Castro, who says Medicare for all, like very quietly, but has no actual plan for that? Or Kamala Harris, who says Medicare for all at a CNN town hall, and then literally less than 24 hours later is, I'm open to other things too, and we got to be pragmatic, so I'm open to a public option. I'm open to Medicare extra. We got to be pragmatic. Do you really think, thank you for the dollar, young Butters McKenzie, do you really think that, the Amy Klobuchars of the world who just said last night, well, Medicare for all is definitely long-term what we want, but, I just want to get something done now. Oh, what a terrible answer that was. Or, frankly, I got to keep it real, Elizabeth Warren is for Medicare for all, but she's not really talking about it on the campaign trail much. When asked about it in a recent interview, she didn't really strongly push it. There's only one candidate. Tulsi Gabbard is for Medicare for all, to her credit. There's only one candidate that is, he's not like taking a breath or looking the other way when he says it. He is strongly, fiercely, and in a non-negotiable way saying we need Medicare for all in this country. He has proposed Medicare for all legislation that had, I believe, 18 co-sponsors, including all of these, as I call them, Johnny-come-lately progressives. Because, let me tell you something. Kirsten Gillibrand, Johnny-come-lately progressive. Cory Booker, Johnny-come-lately progressive. Julian Castro, Johnny-come-lately progressive. Kamala Harris, Johnny-come-lately progressive. And let's not allow them to determine or to manufacture what a progressive is. Hillary Clinton, I'm a progressive who gets things done. Yeah, you get a lot of wars done. You get a lot of warmongering done. You get a lot of incrementalism done. You get a lot of favorable legislation for banks done. And there's a reason that Kamala Harris in 2 years has gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars from Wall Street as a senator. There's a reason. Rel82, longtime member, digging the stream. Keep it up. Thank you, Reller. Thanks for the support. There's a reason Kamala Harris has gotten a hell of a lot of money from Wall Street already. There's a reason she got $127,000 from individuals that work for Time Warner. Time Warner was the parent company of CNN. Follow the money, Lebowski. It's about the money, Lebowski. So none of these people are for what the voters are for. And it's not about whether they're black. It's not about whether they're a woman. It's not about how old they are. It's about the polls. 70% of American citizens polled want Medicare for all. Not Medicare extra, not Medicare buy-in, not Medicare access, not Medicare, marshmallow or whatever's the next thing the incrementalists come up with. Medicare for all. Okay? So, what's the pragmatic thing to do? And I spoke with Jimmy Dore about this a while ago. What's the pragmatic solution? Is the pragmatic solution to look at a poll, look at overwhelming support, and go the other way? Or is the pragmatic solution be like, the majority of people want X. If I give them X, I'll probably be elected. That seems pretty pragmatic, doesn't it? Usually when you give the majority what they want, they like it and they support you. But we don't live in a country where the politicians represent you or I. We live in a country where the politicians take legal bribes and represent the banks, the fossil fuel companies, the real estate developers, pharmaceutical companies, real estate developers, the list goes on and on and on. So, Bernie Sanders, I'm telling you, Bernie Sanders, there would be no way in hell that Medicare for All would be polling at 50%, if not for Bernie Sanders. Specifically, Medicare for All is polling among Republicans at 52%. So that's one number I wanted to show you. Then I heard CNN today say, well, Bernie Sanders, he has a big, big problem with black voters, because this has been their narrative. He has a big, big problem with black voters. They never mention, oh, he won millennial black voters over Hillary Clinton by a pretty nice margin. But no, black voters in total, he has a problem with. Well, according to a September Gallup poll, he has a 64% favorability rating among non-whites, which, black, brown, indigenous. Is that a big problem, folks? Is 64% favorability a huge problem with black voters? I'm not saying he doesn't have to do better. I'm not saying he doesn't have to make inroads. I think he has to campaign heavily in the South, maybe more so than anywhere else. But he has a 64% favorability rating among non-white voters. You don't hear this anywhere else. And by the way, can you read numbers? Because that's better than white voters. Mike Fagan, I didn't know that YouTube stole 30% of your money. Man, there's serious cash rolling into YouTube. Mike, don't even get me started on YouTube. I will go on for 3 hours, and I don't want to get angry. So the bottom line is this. Look at those numbers. He's got a 54% among independent voters. Last time I checked, independent voters decide presidential elections. That's how you get elected. It's not just getting out your base. Who can attract independent voters? And by the way, most independent voters, they lean to the left. 78% among the Democratic Party. Not bad. 50% among whites. Pretty good. 64% among non-whites. Pretty good. But as great as the non-white numbers are, an equally important number in this poll, 55 and older. He's at 45%. This was in September, so it might be even more than that now. That is why he lost the 2016 campaign, on top of a lot of rigging, which I'm going to get to in a minute. He lost because of older Americans, predominantly African-American older people, but also white older people. This isn't an ageist thing, because obviously there's a lot of older Bernie Sanders voters. So I'm not putting a blanket over all older voters. However, the data is the data. Hillary Clinton's predominant voting base was older Americans. So the fact that he's even close to 50% among 55 and older is a positive thing. He'll have to do more. He will have to get to 49, 50% at that number. He will also have to get a little bit better among 35 to 54. But I think he could do it. I really do. So that's another important poll that you will not see on CNN. Another important poll. Well, first of all, before I show this poll, I want to show you what Kamala Harris had to say last night about Medicare for all. Stick with me.
Senator Harris, one of the most popular Democrats in America right now is the guy who won here in 2016, Bernie Sanders, describes himself as a Democratic socialist. To compete in New Hampshire, do you have to, in the Democratic primary, do you have to move more toward the Democratic socialist part of the party?
Well, the people of New Hampshire will tell me what's required to compete in New Hampshire, but I will tell you I am not a Democratic socialist. I believe that what voters do want is they want to know that whoever is going to lead understands that in America today, not everyone has an equal opportunity to and access to a path to success, and that has been building up over decades, and we've got to correct course. When we have in America where almost half of American families cannot afford a $400 emergency, we know that we've got to do some course correction. When we have in America, we're at 99% of the counties in the United States of America. If you're a minimum wage worker working full-time, you can't afford market rate for a one-bedroom apartment, we need to course correct. And those are my commitments in terms of being able to be in a position where, one, I see it, but also I intend to do something.
So, I am not a Democratic socialist. Kamala Harris for you. And holy cow, somebody just put us at $44,000. $44,000 raised on the GoFundMe. Thank you. It's not showing up yet who put us over, so I'll have to thank you individually. But now we're at 44,000, just stepping closer and closer to that 70,000 goal. Obviously, first, the mini goal here is 50,000. I would like to do that by the end of February, so we got a little ways to go. I know everybody's stretched thin. You're donating to Bernie. You're trying to pay your rent. You're trying to get groceries, pay for medicine, all of that. So totally appreciate all of you who have been contributing to the GoFundMe. Trust me, it ain't going to steak dinner. It's going to reporting. If you don't believe us, go look at our reporting last week in Detroit, Cleveland, Lordstown, Ohio, and a few other spots that we reported at. So what's so interesting about Kamala Harris, I am not a Democratic socialist. I'm not a Democratic socialist. Oh, it was Kelly Elaine, $500. Kelly, I can't thank you enough. You've been donating so much. I really need to do something special for you. Thank you so much, Kelly. That's so kind of you to put us over the top. So Kamala Harris isn't a Democratic socialist, and you have Donald Trump playing on this, socialist boogeyman. America will never, ever be a socialist country. And I actually thought I queued this up for you to make a point. I don't normally play Young Turks clips, but I want to play this clip from the 2016 campaign to show you what I think Donald Trump is really going to tap into. And frankly, I think if you think the DNC is not going to try to rig this primary, or they already have rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders, you got another thing coming. And we're going to get to the DNC in a few minutes. And we're going to get to the rigging in 2016, and we're going to get to how to stop it in 2020. But I want to play you this clip so you have a kind of an idea of what not only Donald Trump's going to do, but what, frankly, the Democratic elites are going to do to try and paint Bernie Sanders as the Antichrist. Here we go.
I think Trump, he's honest. We don't need a Barack in office no more because he's a liar. He can't be direct. Hillary Clinton is a criminal. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. He will believe in taking away all our freedom. He'll control the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we live. Trump.
How's Bernie Sanders going to control all that?
He'll find a way. Bernie Sanders, he believes in socialism. If everybody knows correct history, they would know that Hitler was also a socialist, or he was a different type of socialist.
He's a fascist.
Fascist, yeah, socialism, fascism.
Very different.
It is. It runs in the same category, but it's different.
I'm more with Trump because facts. He's being bullied by the government. And
Bernie Sanders, he's kind of like Hitler, Hitler was a socialist. I mean, listen. I don't want to make this too much about Trump, but obviously, you got some ignorant people about what socialism is and is not. But frankly, this is a tactic that the Democratic Party are using too. They think that the country is so against socialism. They think that the country, if they really cater and make socialism the boogeyman and make Bernie, kind of akin to Fidel Castro, or now Maduro, you're starting to hear Bernie is like Maduro, and that, look at Venezuela, socialism, blah, 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 blah. They think that they could effectively kill Bernie Sanders' campaign. Only minor problem with that, Americans, they kind of like socialism. This is recent poll from Gallup, 2010. It was an even split between capitalism and socialism. You had 53% of Americans favored capitalism, 53% socialism. 2012, about the same, 55% capitalism, 53% socialism. 2016, what happened in 2016? Was this kind of disheveled old guy running for president who is a socialist, it goes up by 5 points. 53 to 58% agree with socialism. Sorry for the noise. Of course, as I'm live, they're doing drilling and construction in my apartment. I apologize. Apartment above me. 58% want socialism in 2016. Now in 2018, look at how far favorability ratings for capitalism has fallen. Capitalism has fallen by 9 percentage points in 2 years. What changed after 2016 was, oh my God, Hillary Clinton, she ran that amazing socialist campaign and now we're all love socialism and hate capitalism? Is it, oh, Donald Trump, he ran this amazing anti-capitalism campaign and that pro-socialism campaign? It must be Hillary and Donald Trump that made people hate capitalism and love socialism. Bernie Sanders happened. The Medicare for All movement happened. Fight for 15 has been happening. Free public college has been happening. Black Lives Matter has been happening. No DAPL has been happening. And this notion that socialism is authoritarian. Well, in Venezuela, in 2012, or I don't know when he was elected, Maduro was elected. There were international groups, including the Carter Center, Jimmy Carter's foundation, that did an election integrity study. And they found that Nicolas Maduro was elected in a free and fair election. Okay? Nicolas Maduro, he's not perfect by any means. But Nicolas Maduro, this authoritarian, the election in Venezuela was supposed to be in 2019, this year. But at the behest of the opposition party, who is extreme right-wing fascists, Juan Guaido, who Nancy Pelosi has been clapping for, who Trump says, oh, the now democratically elected leader of Venezuela, Juan Guaido. No. Nicolas Maduro, the authoritarian, moved up the election from 2019 to 2018. It was a year earlier than it was supposed to be. You don't hear that on CNN. So do you think Donald Trump would be like, oh, there's a lot of people that want the election sooner? Let's move it up to 2019. I mean, it's ridiculous, this thing about socialism and authoritarianism. It doesn't exist. One of the main reasons that Venezuela needs such strong humanitarian aid is because the United States and other countries has put crippling sanctions on the country. They have closed off ports to bring in food and medicine. They have put sanctions on that disallow and block international business, for Venezuelans to get international loans, Venezuelan businesses to get international loans. This is one of the reasons that the situation is so dire in Venezuela and other socialist countries. And guess what? That would be like you going and burning a house down, and then you standing as the house is burning, talking to all the worried neighbors saying, what irresponsible homeowners. What irresponsible homeowners these homeowners were after you burned down their house. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I got news for you. This idea that, oh, the Democrats are handing Trump a gift by being socialists, and the Democratic Party, and I got news for you folks. Tom Perez of the Democratic Party, they're not standing by, they're not going to sit by and just clap on participation of all candidates.
No.
They're going to rig the primary.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you how in a little bit. So, socialism, kind of a cool thing now. Socialism, kind of, especially among young people, but even older people. Socialism, not a dirty word. Because what is socialism? Medicare for all? What is socialism? Free public college? What is socialism?
Firefighters?
Ending private prisons? What is socialism? Clean water? I mean, it's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. So, thank you, Joseph Ballin, $10 in the super chat. Jordan, Sanders and Maduro's social democrats, not socialists. Socialists are people like Lenin who overthrow the entire capitalist system and replace it. There are no socialist nations anymore. Fair point, Mr.
Fair
Ballin.
point.
Fair point, Mr. Ballin. If you want to go to the letter of the law, Bernie is more of a social democrat. But I'd take a social democrat over a capitalist douchebag Democrat. Oop, there goes my monetization.
You promised.
Ty and I had a long discussion yesterday. Can I make the sacrifice of not cursing so I don't get demonetized on YouTube? And I said, I could sacrifice that. But it's hard because I keep it real, and this is how I speak.
But you know what? At least you acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You tried. Just continue.
Yeah. So, and by the way, for all 540 of you watching, because a lot of you might not might be new to this channel because YouTube doesn't let you know that we have a channel here and a network. We are live Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, rain or shine. 5 p.m. Eastern time. Don't expect YouTube to notify you. It might happen 2 out of 10 times. Put it in your phone. Put it on your calendar. 5 p.m. Eastern, status coup. We are also live Sunday at noon Eastern. We do a marathon live stream where we get interviews with lawmakers, progressives, you name it. We've had Lee Camp, we've had Jimmy Dore, we've had Mike from the Humanist Report, we've had Matt Taibbi, we're trying to get Tulsi, we're trying to get Chris Hedges, we're trying to get the best of the best. So, just so you know, public service announcement. But there's more to show you to debunk the corporate media spin about Bernie Sanders. So, not only are we a capitalist country, but, you know, how do you win? How do you win a general election? By winning independents. This is from Fox News, of all places. Bernie Sanders, this was in 2017. Now it's at 54%. But in 2017, look at that favorability rating among independent voters. By the way, Bernie Sanders, a little secret that the Democratic Party doesn't want you to know, but I could tell you because I was on the campaign trail. Bernie Sanders, pretty damn popular among a lot of Republican voters. Because when I would go to Trump rallies, and I still need therapy, you could tell by the clip I showed you. When I would go to Trump rallies, I would ask them, well, if not Bernie, who would it be? Would it be Cruz, Ben Carson, Fiorina? Who would it be? Not pretty much an overwhelming majority, Bernie Sanders. So, if America was a sane country, if America had a national media that actually covered the facts, that actually would tell you those poll numbers, that didn't just create and push false narratives, Bernie Sanders would be the overwhelming front runner. And I think the more he campaigns, he will become the front runner. But there's an elephant in the room. There is a big, big elephant in the room that we need to talk about with Bernie Sanders. Because does anybody here think this is going to be a fair fight? Let me know in the live chat or in the super chat. Do you know? Do you think this is going to be some fair fight where everyone's going to get equal time and everybody's going to get a participation trophy and everybody's, you know, it's just whoever has the best ideas shall win? I got news for you. Okay. Here's the calculus by the Democratic National Committee. All right, well, we just got to keep it out of our emails. That's the calculus of the Democratic National Committee. We can't actually put in writing what we're feeding the media as far as hit jobs on Bernie Sanders. We can't actually put in writing, you know, we're trying to paint him as an atheist. And I got news for you folks. I said this last year, and I will say it again now, and I want you to record this. I want you to save this because it is coming. You ready for it? The Democratic Party, the Republican Party. Wait a minute. Bernie Sanders and Jane Sanders honeymooned in Russia? Why did they honeymoon in Russia? Who did they speak to when they were in Russia? Where did they stay when they were in Russia? What was the nature of their stay? Was it wedded bliss or was it business? I'm telling you it's coming. Because the Democratic Party is going to make, as a litmus test, whoever is foaming at the mouth more against Bernie. And I got to be honest with you, keeping it real, I think Bernie has been terrible on this Russia issue. I think Bernie has bought into a lot of the false narratives about Russia. I think Bernie has fed in to this Cold War hysteria, which is dangerous. So on that, got to keep it real. I think Bernie has fed in to this Russia hysteria based on nonsense. And for that, if I interviewed him, I would challenge him. By the way, I've asked for an interview with Bernie Sanders when I was at the Young Turks probably 30 times. Haven't asked for one yet, but I'm going to. So Bernie needs to be better on this. He needs to stop pushing false narratives. He needs to stop, creating a Cold War hysteria. Did Russia interfere with the 2016 election? Yeah. I mean, if you want to call interfering like fake Facebook pages, trolling, if you're on the side that thinks Russia hacked the DNC, I've seen no forensic evidence of that. But even if they did, honestly, go to Michigan, go to Wisconsin, go to Pennsylvania, go to Ohio. It didn't change a vote. You could read that in the exit polls, which I've reported on this channel. The exit polls in these states that Trump won that became pivotal. You want to know why Trump is president? Because of NAFTA and Bill Clinton passing NAFTA and Hillary Clinton supporting it. Do you want to know why Trump is president? Because Ohio's jobs, Wisconsin's jobs, Michigan's jobs, Pennsylvania's jobs, Illinois's jobs, they've all been sold to Mexico and China. It's not rocket science. When you look at the exit polls from those states in the 2016 election, two top issues: immigration, trade. And by the way, a lot of you have asked, I have reached out to Andrew Yang for an interview. Andrew Yang, running for president, and has a very, very progressive platform. So he's not my preferred choice, though, as Bernie's vice president. I'll get to that in a few minutes. We've got a lot to cover here. And remember, folks, status coup, we exist to get out there on the campaign trail. We exist to cover these real issues. You know what? While I have your attention, I want to show you some of the work we just did on the road. So you can see, if you're unfamiliar with our work, I want to show you what we just did out on the road. So you see what we are capable of and what we want to do on the campaign trail. We don't want to only cover the horse race. We don't want to only cover who's up, who's down, and the bullshit narratives on Twitter. We want to cover local issues. We want to give the microphone back to the people. And the only way you do that is by being in the field. That's the only way you do that. So let me show you our most recent reporting trip, and we'll talk about Bernie a little bit more on the way back. Hold on.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am here in Detroit. Hey there, it's Jordan. I am here in Cleveland on the steps of City Hall. Hey, it's Jordan. I am here still in Detroit. Hey, it's Jordan. I am here in Warren, Michigan.
The $800 billion system that was funded by the taxpayers, okay, that covers the city of Detroit and 127 suburban communities, okay. This is a profitable water department that was stripped from the city of Detroit with a bankruptcy that was totally contrived, and the result is death. It's a slow death, but it surely is a death.
So while the bankers got bailed out, we got sold out. That's basically what it is. Emergency management for whom? It's not for the citizens, because this isn't our fault.
It's so important that we not delay, and that's part of why we're here today. What we know from the statistics from the Ohio Department of Health is that every day 4 children in the city of Cleveland test positive for elevated blood lead levels above what the CDC says is acceptable.
The time for meetings, committees, and summits has long since passed.
And over the last 4 years, while they've slashed wages and cut jobs, they've funneled almost $14 billion into stock buybacks that only benefit the richest investors, including Mr. Warren Buffett.
Right now, they could be taking all the trust plans out on strikes because those plans don't have local contracts. You know they have health and safety problems, they have speed-up problems. They could have done that from day one.
They tricked the voters to enact to enhance security in the schools. And when the voters thought that they was enhancing security, they took millions of dollars out the fund and they took an old tore down school and turned it into a police force for the Detroit Public School Police Department.
For too long, the people of Cleveland have been told that real change is impossible. Politicians meet behind closed doors to shape the future of our city to benefit the rich and the powerful. Anyone who questions this arrangement is told that that's just how things work around here, and there's nothing that can be done. But standing here today is a group of people who are not content to accept the status quo.
Now, if you take my dollar,
the situation. Across the board, we not buying nothing. No cars. Not Ford, not Chrysler, not GM. Not negotiate. I got my money in my pocket.
They went further, the city council. They enacted afterwards, they enacted a law to give themselves half off the property that the people had lost here and gave their family members half off the property. They immediate family gave all contract half off the property that was taken from people under nuisance abatement, which is the same thing as eminent domain.
And these houses is not being fixed up. Is a rat infested. You had to live next to this abandoned house for years. And now they even petition our own city council to give them money from our general fund to fix up technically property that they own. Okay, while they sit there and tell the residents, you fix up your house in 6 months, and I get to use your tax money and hoard these houses for developers for years to come.
What we need is more democracy.
We don't
right?
need a Barack
And whether
in
your
office
oppressor
no more
comes in the
because he's a
form of
liar,
Putin
he
or
can't be
Trump
direct,
or really
Hillary
anyone who's
Clinton
trying
is
to
a
destroy
criminal,
democracy
Bernie
in this
Sanders
country or
is a
destroy
socialist. He will
a
believe
movement of the
in
masses
taking away all
to create
our
a better
freedom.
world
He'll
that
control
needs to
the way
be
we
opposed.
eat,
I
the
don't
way
care
we
where it
sleep,
comes
the way
from or who's
we
doing it.
live.
And workers today are going to have to build
Bernie
something
Sanders
new.
going to control
it's
that?
It's an interesting
he'll
historical
find a way.
fact. When
Bernie
the sit-down
Sanders,
strike
he was a
took
socialist.
place in
If,
Flint,
everybody
the
knows
first
correct
judge
history,
carried
they
out,
would
tried to get an
know that
injunction to
Hitler was
force the
also
workers out of the
a
factory,
socialist, or he
but it
was
was
a different type
exposed
of
that the
socialist.
judge had
Fascist.
36,000
Fascist,
shares of
fascism.
GM stock.
A little
Well,
very
the
different.
UAW has 100 million shares of General Motors stock, but it won't recuse itself, because it's in the business of policing the workers.
We can't have a viable city that works for everyone when we
Why is he being
continue
bullied by the
to
government?
host summits, meetings, and avoid passing legislation that ends this lead crisis. As a community, we have sat on the sidelines for far too long.
A clear message for the Democratic Party.
Really important.
If you want
It's actually really important that
agenda,
we show not just
you have to
the
come
horse
around
race,
more
not
often
just who's
than
up and who's
election
down,
time with
not just
Nancy
like
what amendment is he trying to take
This
away
is
from
a
you?
grassroots
Minnesota,
issue.
New Hampshire voters.
And we're being treated
connect
like
with.
second-class
No,
citizens.
Knocked
you
on
have
your
to,
door and
you
And
have
then
to
when we
show.
speak about issues
You
of
have to
race,
show.
people get mad and say,
What is
"Oh,
actually
well,
going
why
on
are
in
you
these
saying
communities?"
it's white and
You
black?"
have
and
to
stuff?
show
Because it is
the
what
actual
it is.
understand why
You have a
protesters have
group
come out?
of people that don't
You
look
have to
like
show
us
their
that are
voices.
making decisions
It's not rocket
and are
science.
not
That is
including
how
the very same
you
people
make
that it is affecting.
change.
And
That is how you
for
wake
those that
more
people that
people
say
up.
People
we
had an
shouldn't
issue 'cause
mention
he was on
race, we
CNN
should,
and he
you
was
know, we're
asked
being
directly,
racist.
someone you
No,
denounce
this is
the
a
KKK,
reality.
and he's usually strong in the way he answers things, and he was just like, well,
And
I
we
don't know
expected it to
anything.
be heard.
So people thought he was
And
trying
what
to
happened
basically
was, a year
keep them in his
Council
good
came to our
favor.
meeting. They promised us it would be
Man,
heard,
Sam.
and it was
I
never
couldn't-
heard. They
but
never
I'm
put
still
it to
with
the
you.
floor.
No, you
mess with
you would
the
agree.
sound.
You
I'm
want someone
telling
who's going to denounce
you
the
messed
KKK.
You did the whole thing
Yeah,
different
kinda,
than
yeah.
I do
mean,
it.
I'm not racist.
I do it differently.
I know, but I had already told you don't turn it on. Go ahead, you got it. If you leave it like it is, you won't have these issues.
So, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can see me. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Just lost 100 people.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Right?
Can you hear me?
I think
Can you
Trump,
see me?
he's honest. We don't need a Barack in office no more because he's a
One
liar.
second, dude.
He can't be direct. Hillary Clinton is a criminal.
So,
Bernie Sanders is a socialist.
what we were trying to do before we had the technical difficulties, I was trying to show you you need more than the horse race. You need more than
Bernie Sanders going to control all that?
Fixating on who do New Hampshire voters want to have a beer with. You need to actually show who is in the community. You need to actually show the voices of the community. You need to actually show the voices and the faces of the people that are struggling in the union movement. The General Motors workers getting laid off. The people who can't afford health care. The people that literally are facing getting evicted from their apartments in a month. Getting this kind of content out there, getting these kinds of stories out there,
why is he being bullied by the government?
Critically important.
I mean, you can see.
Critically important.
I mean, everybody's
so here's the bottom line.
Here's
the bottom line.
Because he's the man in power.
What the corporate media is going to do is try and push
a lot of people say
certain candidates.
Trump's a bully, but you're saying he's being bullied.
Yeah, I think he's being bullied and taken up for himself.
I mean, Obama's trying to control the Constitution. He's trying to take away our.
You got all these things on. You're not turning them off. Okay, you can talk. It's done.
What the corporate media is going to try and do is push narratives. What the corporate media is going to try to do is push a framework. Well, who do New Hampshire voters want to have a beer with? You know, who do they connect with? They're not going to go and interview actual voters in their local communities. They're not going to focus on issues in New Hampshire or Iowa. They're not going to show union members getting laid off. They're not going to show people who can't afford health care. They're not going to show people buried in $300,000 of student loans. They're not going to show any of this. Meanwhile, you're going to have the Democratic Party, the DNC, they're not going to put it into email, but they're going to call their sources at NBC. They're going to call their sources at CNN. They're going to call their sources at the New York Times. They're going to have meetings. They're going to have meetings with their sources. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to plant stories attacking Bernie Sanders. They're going to attack him on socialism. They're going to attack him, I think, on Russia. They're going to attack him, I think, on, what has he done? What has he done? He just forced the richest man in the world, to raise the minimum wage of Amazon to $15 an hour. He proposed Medicare for all and got, I think, 17 or 18 co-sponsors. He just single-handedly in the Senate, well, he had a little bit of help, but literally was able to get a bill to pass using the War Powers Act for the first time in American history to stop U.S. involvement in Yemen. He is also the amendment king in Congress and in the Senate. So this is what he has done. He is also responsible for all those polls moving. 70% want Medicare for all. I think 60-something% want free public college. 58% fight for $15 minimum wage. This is because of him and the grassroots movement he's organizing. Frankly, love you, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but candidates like her aren't possible to raise grassroots enthusiasm if the grassroots enthusiasm in America wasn't already sparked by Bernie Sanders. You don't have an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez without a Bernie Sanders, okay? You don't even have a Tim Canova to even have a shot against the Debbie Wasserman Schultz in 2016. You don't have, well, no, I actually think Stacey Abrams could have happened without Bernie Sanders, but he helped pave the way. So the bottom line is, you need, whether it's Status Coup or other independent media, you need independent media out there to actually show the real America, not Sarah Palin's real America, the real America of what's going on. If you don't have that, you have nothing. Now I'm going to have Ty play this clip. I'm going to have Ty play the clip so we don't have a problem because we're trying a new system here and I got a little screwed up.
There. My name
so
is
give me a second.
And
I want to play
this
this
video,
clip.
I'm going to talk about how to
because Bernie Sanders is going to need
to
speak and he's going to need to elevate these voices. He's going to have to elevate these voices and get this word out. So this is a little recap of our latest reporting trip. You'll be able to hear it now. And I'm going to connect it to Bernie Sanders when we come back. if you could play it.
He's a little stressed out, y'all. He'll try to cuss me out.
Yeah, my cameraman left for 45 minutes while I'm live.
I know it. You want to start? You got it where you want to start? All right.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am here in Detroit. Hey there, it's Jordan. I am here in Cleveland on the steps of City Hall. Hey, it's Jordan. I am here still in Detroit. Hey, it's Jordan. I am here in Warren, Michigan.
$800 billion, $800 billion system that was funded by the taxpayers, okay, that covers the city of Detroit and 127 suburban communities, okay. This is a profitable water department that was stripped from the city of Detroit with a bankruptcy that was totally contrived, and the result is death. You know, it's a slow death, but it surely is a death.
So we got sold while the bankers got bailed out, we got sold out. That's basically what it is. Emergency management for whom? It's not for the citizens, because this isn't our fault.
It's so important that we not delay, and that's part of why we're here today. What we know from the statistics from the Ohio Department of Health is that every day 4 children in the city of Cleveland test positive for elevated blood lead levels above what the CDC says is acceptable.
The time for meetings, committees, and summits has long since passed.
And over the last 4 years, while they've slashed wages and cut jobs, they've funneled almost $14 billion into stock buybacks that only benefit the richest investors, including Mr. Warren Buffett.
Right now, they could be taking all the trucks plants out on strikes because those plants don't have local contracts. You know they have health and safety problems, they have speed up problems. They could have done that from day one.
They tricked the voters to enact to enhance security in the schools. And when the voters thought that they was enhancing security, they took millions of dollars out the fund and they took an old tore down school and turned it into a police force for the Detroit Public School Police Department.
For too long, the people of Cleveland have been told that real change is impossible. Politicians meet behind closed doors to shape the future of our city to benefit the rich and the powerful. Anyone who questions this arrangement is told that that's just how things work around here, and there's nothing that can be done. But standing here today is a group of people who are not content to accept the status quo.
Now, if you take my dollar, then I ain't got no money, and I'm gonna speak it like that. So stop buying anything, and when they go into negotiations, here's the situation. Across the board, we not buying nothing, no cars. Not Ford, not Chrysler, not GM, not negotiate. I got my money in my pocket.
They went further, the city council. They enacted afterwards, they enacted a law to give themselves half off the property that the people had lost here, and gave their family members half off the property. They immediate family gave all contract half off the property that was taken from people under nuisance abatement, which is the same thing as eminent domain.
And these houses is not being fixed up. Is a rat infested. You have to live next to this abandoned house for years. And now they even petition our own city council to give them money from our general fund to fix up technically property that they own. Okay, while they sit there and tell the residents, you fix up your house in 6 months, and I get to use your tax money and hoard these houses for developers for years to come.
What we need is more democracy, right? And whether your oppressor comes in the form of Putin or Trump or really anyone who's trying to destroy democracy in this country or destroy a movement of the masses to create a better world, that needs to be opposed. I don't care where it comes from or who's doing it.
And workers today are going to have to build something new. It's an interesting historical fact. When the sit-down strike took place in Flint, the first judge tried to get an injunction to force the workers out of the factory, but it was exposed that the judge had 36,000 shares of GM stock. Well, the UAW has 100 million shares of General Motors stock, but it won't recuse itself, because it's in the business of policing the workers.
We can't have a viable city that works for everyone when we continue to host summits, meetings, and avoid passing legislation that ends this led crisis. As a community, we have sat on the sidelines for far too long.
A clear message for the Democratic Party. If you want folks to support your agenda, you have to come around more often than election time with fancy slogans. This is a grassroots issue.
And we're being treated like second-class citizens here. And then when we speak about issues of race, people get mad and say, oh, well, why are you saying white and black and stuff? Because it is what it is. You have a group of people that don't look like us, that are making decisions and are not including the very same people that it is affecting. And for those people that say we shouldn't mention race, we should, we're being racist and all. No, this is a reality.
He drafted an ordinance which was 9/90/17, and we expected it to be heard. And what happened was a year went past. Council came to our meeting. They promised us it would be heard, and it was never heard. They never put it to the floor.
Well, I think from the beginning, the poison had already been injected in the body, right? And what I mean by that is, it's almost like when you walk past something, you're working so fast, it's not until you kind of settle down that you notice, man, my hand bleeding. When did I cut myself? So when they did the right to work, that was the prick, right? To bust up the union.
And that's the whole point. We have to think outside the concessions and austerity cage that capitalism has put us in. That is simply it.
So yes, when we do go downtown, the people get stuck. Well, yes, we do go downtown and we complain, and we have nobody to talk to because the people that we did try to talk to have brushed us off. There is no ombudsman that we can go to him, and even then we have nobody that we. So either it be the state, the UN, the World Council in Geneva. I don't know where will we have to go.
It's amazing that the federal government, the state government, and local government don't know what the definition of an emergency is. So having a wall is not an emergency. Having a stadium built is not an emergency. Making sure that we protect young people whose lives will be changed for the rest of their lives, that is an emergency.
I found out later that the trick has been on me. I've been at Chrysler now almost 20 years, and I've seen a lot. And it's always the same, where management want to know how can I get more and pay you less to do it. That's the ultimate beef.
How is that legal? How is it legal for them to shut off masses of people water and for water bills that's only $50, $60, $100 when we got big corporation businesses owning hundreds of thousands of dollars and nobody says nothing about it? How is that legal when we got stadiums that we spend our tax money for and when we don't even have schools for our children and they take money from our school funds?
So we don't need $8 billion for a wall. We need to use our money to create infrastructure to save our children and to make sure that our infrastructure in our community is sound and that our children are safe.
The populations that are most affected by it and who suffer most from it are poor, are black, are the working class, and we don't cover that in our society. We cover the tragedies of the rich all the time, and for a poor kid growing up who already has so many other cards stacked against them with a racist criminal justice system and an underfunded education system is being poisoned from birth, and we just don't talk about that.
So you're going to ask about the conditions inside the plant facing workers every day. They're told to go along with what you are doing because there's a lot of other people out there who will come in and do the same job.
We have to go on, and the way we're going to go on is not to produce individual cars, but to produce what we need for the 21st century, a mass transit system. And what does that mean? That means electric buses, it means trams, it means small vehicles, it means railroad cars, and that's something that we can make in this area.
And he has a stronghold on the churches by him giving what they call community benefits to them. He gives property to all the churches in Detroit. He gives property to them. They set up, most of the pastors have set up limited liability companies where they got property in these limited liability companies. They become recipients of prime property and they be in favor of them and they be able to sway the church population in order to vote for him.
You gotta fight. So we're gonna continue to fight. And I hope that people understand that we are resilient and we're not gonna give up. But we want some national attention to this crisis that we are in. And the city of Detroit should not go out like this, because we are a great city and we offer so much. We sacrifice so much to the world. And for us to be treated like this, it breaks my heart. And I don't even want to.
This is what we go through. I mean, if it ain't her crying, it's me crying.
The reason CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times and all these places don't come out here, it's not because they certainly have the money. It's because they are living in their bubble, and that's where they want to stay. They don't give a fuck about these people. They don't.
Yeah, so that's our reporting.
A sixth grader
from
was arrested at school
Detroit
for not standing up.
We're in Ohio. We're in
for the Pledge
what was
of
the other
Allegiance.
city?
I wish I was kidding.
Lordstown.
It's kind of
we were
funny.
talking to people that were that were laid off.
It's kind of funny.
Water, but I got you. We were talking to people that's been laid off by GM, people that in Detroit where they have lead in their water also, and they actually their lead started before Flint, right? It's nothing planned. I turned that off. It's good. I saw it already. It's nothing planned. It's nothing planned, right? I'm trying to get my groove, and Jordan. Thanks. I know it's been. Anyway, I wanted to jump on the mic because I don't know if everyone was tuned in this weekend, but I had brought up a point, talking about Kamala Harris. And there's been a lot of discussion online and on social media about her blackness, or if she's black or not, and this and that. And I just need you guys to stay away from the dumb shit. You know what I mean? Like, let's get over, this is a divide and conquer. This is a white supremacy type rhetoric. You know what I mean? Like, back in the day, you had a drip of black in you, you're black. You know what I'm saying? And now all of a sudden we want to try to say, oh, well, she's not. Listen, if she got pulled over by the police ain't going to say, oh, you're not black. You from Jamaica? No, they're going to assume you're black and they're going to treat you like you're black. You know what I'm saying? African American is just some title that they just threw over every black person in America. You know what I mean? That's not, being African American in this country ain't who I am. That's an experience. And she experienced that. She's black 100%. She's black, and she get put over by the police. If she was raped as a kid, they're gonna treat her like a little black girl and not care, just like they do with any other poor black girl. She's black, so we can get over that. We can let that go. Okay. Now, as far as her policies, what? Yes, Jordan.
What I was getting at is,
I'm not talking about what you're getting at, though.
I wanted to get your thoughts on something.
Okay, get my thoughts. What?
That CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times are painting it as, well, Bernie Sanders isn't exactly in step with the changing face of the Democratic Party,
No.
which is BS.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that would have been part of it, but I wonder how you would feel if I interrupted
Did you already went over this with the audience?
It's more people on there. I didn't go over it. If you want me on the mother effing mic, okay, well then don't tell me. Anyway, her policies are different. Okay, we don't, you know what I'm saying? Those are two different things. She's black 100%, period, point blank. African American. She had the experience. We're over that. But her policies are something different. You know what I mean? And they do. And you're right. They try to push it as, oh, he's not part of the evolving what? He's the one that provoked evolution in the Democratic Party. He is that thing, right? You know what I mean? We're not voting. We're not doing that no more. We're not looking at people and saying, "Oh, I'm going to vote for you because we never had a woman in." You know what I mean? We will have a woman in, but she's going to be progressive. She's going to be for the people. If she's part of the system, she's not getting in. Whether she's a woman, whether she's black, whether she's white, whatever. We're not going to vote against our own. Listen, we're done with voting against our own interests because someone looks familiar, or we want to have groupthink, and because the group says it, that we're going to do it. No, that's what we're resisting. That's the same thing. That's why we're still in the rut today. That's why we're frustrated today. Now everyone's frustrated. Black people have been frustrated for the longest time, but we all know that it doesn't matter until it affects a white person. And now that it's spilled over, white people are starting to see how black people have been treated. At least a little bit of it, where you see they don't give a fuck. If you're in their way, they don't give a fuck. And so if you don't have any conviction, if one day you can say, yeah, I'm for Medicare for all, and we can get rid of the private option, and then because of pressure, no, not even 24 hours, you change your mind. You're the AG in California, and we have we have like the unique position to be the first people to vote for a single payer, and you don't cast a vote because you're about to run for president and you don't really know where the wave is blowing. Come on, man. We've seen this before. We're talking about her policies. Period. She's Mini Hillary. Mini Hillary. Her policies. Period. We can talk about that. We don't need to talk about her being black. She's black. She's lovely, beautiful, but her policies ain't. And it's going to affect me. I got two brothers that's doing life right now for a murder that they didn't do. Been in jail since 97. And we have stories of her rejecting someone being released because of a false charge. The guy that his cousin was the niece claimed that he raped them, and she stepdaughter, and they found out that it was false, and she fought to keep him in. Come on, man, that's not progressive. Y'all can look at videos and see she's about that life. She in Oakland, they passed an ordinance where they wanted to have more accountability for the police, and it was a couple things in that statute. But one of the things that was in the statute was for the police to not just have that internal. You know how when police do something, they have an internal investigation. What that means is my friend in the next office is going to investigate me. My friend. That's like saying Jordan is going to investigate something I did. You think Jordan going to tell on me? Nah, that's a conflict of interest. So they wanted the community to be able to look at this guy's record and say, no, this is the bad police. She said, no, we're not having that. This is what she did. She shut that down. No community accountability. And the community is the one that's being affected. Like, this is what we're talking about, her policies. And come on now, I'm not dealing with it. You shouldn't deal with it. Let's look at the policy, period. The policy. You know what I mean? I don't care if you're black, white, Chinese, whatever. We done with that. That's all I gotta say.
Wait, one more thing. Do you think at other media outlets, if the talent or the broadcaster was live, camera people would be able to walk away for 45 minutes?
Wait, what?
Do you think at other media outlets, if the host,
you stupid.
No, I'd answer. If the cameraman was live, if the host was live for 45 minutes, would the camera person just be able to walk away because sometimes there's technical difficulties or something like that?
I had to get. I've been up all night working on. We're like doing some infrastructure, and I haven't slept in almost 2 days because I've been trying to work this. That's why I'm here in New York. So, whatever. You gonna make me cuss? I'm supposed to be cussing either. Go ahead, dog. Go ahead.
Sometimes when you have technical difficulties and you're technically illiterate like me, it would be good to have an expert there. But we'll work on that. So, Jordan is OCD. It's not OCD. I just, I kind of want my cameraman here when I'm live. But I think something Ty said was important. I think the majority of this country, black, brown, indigenous, whatever, of course, politicians that look like you or around your old age, that's nice. But if they ain't saying anything that represents you and your struggle, what is it good for?
You know what? There was a girl when we were in Chicago. She said it best. She said, you know what? We always thought that if we got a black person, someone that looked like us, that they would look out for our interests because they've been through it too. And she said every public official in that city's black, and they're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. You know what I mean? She was like, I'm done with it. We interviewed the girl. She was like, I'm done. We went to a few cities. Detroit. If you look at that whole video when we're in Detroit, they say the same thing. That they get these, that they put people, what they do is try to run this game. They say, we're going to put you in as a front man, but you're doing my bidding. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. That's the, man, people are people and people are corrupt, dog. They manipulate people's insecurities and their situations for their own profit and for their own needs. We're done with that.
Do you mind putting my phone in the charger? Thank you. So, Jordan, Ty is more than your cameraman. Be respectful.
Thank you, bro.
You're right. I'm a jerk. I'm very respectful to Ty. Too respectful sometimes. Jesus. But you're right. So, what I want to get to, finally, is the elephant in the room. So, all right, if Bernie Sanders speaks to you, if Bernie Sanders is the majority of America's favorite politician, he is the most favorite politician in America. If Bernie Sanders has widespread union support, if Bernie Sanders has widespread support among millennials, if Bernie Sanders has widespread support among non-white voters, as the polls I just showed you, why wouldn't he immediately and automatically be the front runner for president of the United States? Well, there's a little something called the oligarchy. There's a little something called a rigged political system. There's a little something called Tom Perez and the DNC. There's a little something called election fraud and voter suppression and rigging and superdelegates. So I want to read you a piece from my one of my best friends in the world, BFF, Donna Brazil, who, if you remember, in the 2016 election, I broke the story, well, courtesy of WikiLeaks, but I had to go through all the emails. She was flipping questions to Hillary Clinton's campaign first, and Donna Brazil, when she was trying to sell her book, actually told the truth. But like Kamala Harris, this truth only lasted for 24 hours. And then she started moonwalking away. So I'm going to read you a little piece from Donna. If you've already read it, just work with me. Because I want to remind you that, and I'm sure Bernie Sanders knows this, he ain't just up against Kamala Harris or Cory Booker or Kirsten Gillibrand or Julian Castro or Elizabeth Warren or Tulsi Gabbard. Donna Brazil, in her words, before I called Bernie Sanders, I lit a candle in my living room and I put on some gospel music. I wanted to center myself for what I knew would be an emotional phone call. I had promised Bernie when I took the helm of the Democratic National Committee after the convention that I would get to the bottom of whether Hillary Clinton's team had rigged the nomination process, as a cache of emails stolen by Russian hackers and posted online had suggested. I had my suspicions from the moment I walked into the DNC the door of the DNC a month or so earlier, based on the leaked emails. But who knew if some of them might have been forged? I needed to have solid.
Blood said she needs more me and you on cameras, more appealing and compelling.
How many times have I told you to move to New York? Huh?
I'm on my way.
I needed to have solid proof, and so did Bernie. See, the problem with that is I live in an apartment, and Ty doesn't realize that his voice is really, really, really loud. So if you want to fund us for soundproofing, how much is soundproofing this apartment? Because I don't want to get kicked out of my apartment. But Ty's going to be on camera more. So Donna Brazil says, I followed the money. My predecessor, Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz, had not been the most active chair in fundraising at a time when President Barack Obama's neglect had left the party in significant debt. As Hillary's campaign gained momentum, she resolved the party's debt and put it on a starvation diet. It had become dependent on her campaign for survival, which she expected to wield control of its operations. That was a little something called money laundering with the Hillary Victory Fund. Yeah, illegal, but in America, if you're Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, or any powerful person, really, you're fine. Debbie was not a good manager. She hadn't been very interested in controlling the party. She let Clinton headquarters in Brooklyn do as it desired, so she didn't have to inform the party officers how bad the situation was. How much control Brooklyn had and for how long was still something I had been trying to uncover for the last few weeks. By September 7th, the day I called Bernie, I had found my proof, and it broke my heart. Oh, Donna. The Saturday morning after the convention in July, I called Gary Gensler, the chief financial officer of Hillary's campaign. He wasted no words. He told me the Democratic Party was broke and $2 million in debt. What? I screamed. I'm an officer of the party, and they've been telling me everything is fine, and they were raising money with no problems. This wasn't true, he said. Officials from Hillary campaign had taken a look at the DNC's books. Obama left the party $24 million in debt, $15 million in bank debt, and more than $8 million owed to vendors after the 2012 campaign. And had been paying it off very slowly. Obama's campaign was not scheduled to pay it off until 2016. Hillary for America, the campaign, and Hillary Victory Fund, its joint fundraising vehicle with the DNC, a money laundering scheme, had taken care of 80% of the remaining debt in 2016, about $10 million, and had placed the party on an allowance. So you literally had a candidate running the DNC. Hillary Clinton, a candidate running the DNC, not during the general election, during the primary. This on top of WikiLeaks emails that showed the DNC was preparing to support Hillary Clinton's general election campaign before Bernie Sanders even announced. They already had their strategy in place to coronate Queen Hillary. If I didn't know about this, I assumed that none of the other officers knew about it either. That was just Debbie's way. In my experience, she didn't come to the officers of the DNC for advice and counsel. She seemed to make decisions on her own and let us know at the last minute what she had decided, and she had done as she had done when she told us about the hacking only minutes before the Washington Post broke the news. On the phone, Gary told me the DNC needed a $2 million loan, which the campaign had arranged. No, that can't be true, I said. The party cannot take out a loan without the unanimous agreement of all the officers. Gary, how did they do this without me knowing? I don't know how Debbie relates to the officers, Gary said. He described the party as fully under control of the Hillary campaign, which seemed to confirm the suspicions of the Bernie camp. The campaign had the DNC on life support, giving it money every month to meet its basic expenses, while the campaign was using the party as a fundraising clearinghouse. Under FEC law, an individual can contribute a maximum of $2,700 directly to a presidential campaign, but the limits are much higher for contributions to state parties and a party's national committee. So that's what they were doing. Donors to Hillary Clinton's campaigns, big wig, Democratic donors, use a lot of tax shelters in the Cayman Islands, lobby Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton for tax cuts and subsidies and all sorts of goodies, while derailing about we need a campaign finance reform, while they abuse the system. They were not only donating $2,700 to the Hillary Clinton campaign, they were then donating the max to the DNC, they were donating the max to the state parties, and this money was supposed to go to the state parties, was supposed to go to the DNC, but then was getting funneled back into Hillary Clinton's campaign. That's called money laundering, but not illegal if you're Hillary Clinton or powerful people. Individuals who had maxed out at their $2,700 contribution limit to the campaign could write an additional check for $353,400 to the Hillary Victory Fund. That figure represented $10,000 to each of the 32 state parties who were part of the Victory Fund agreement, $320,000 and $33,400 to the DNC. The money would be deposited in the states first and transferred to the DNC shortly after that. Money in the battleground states usually stayed in the state, but all other states funneled that money directly to the DNC, which quickly transferred the money to Brooklyn. Gee, what do you mean the campaign was rigged against Bernie Sanders? Wait, I said. That Victory Fund was supposed to be for whoever was the nominee in the state party races. You're telling me that Hillary has been controlling it since before she got the nomination? Gary said the campaign had to do it or the party would collapse. That was the deal Robbie struck with Debbie. Robbie Mook, Hillary's campaign manager. It was to sustain the DNC. I'm sure it was to sustain the DNC while Hillary's campaign was taking the money meant for the DNC into its campaign coffers. We sent the party nearly $20 million from September until the convention and more to prepare for the election. What's the burn rate? Gary asked. How much money do we need every month to fund the party? The burn rate was $3.5 million to $4 million a month. I gasped. I had a pretty good sense of the DNC's operation after having served as interim chair 5 years earlier. Back then, the monthly expenses were half of that. What had happened? The party chair usually shrinks the staff between presidential election campaigns, but Debbie had chosen not to do that. She had stuck lots of consultants on the DNC payroll, and Obama's consultants were being financed by the DNC too. When we hung up, I was livid. Not at Gary, but at the mess I had inherited. I knew that Debbie had outsourced a lot of the management of the party and had not been the greatest at fundraising. I would not be that kind of chair, even if I was only interim chair. Did they think I would just be a surrogate for them, get on the road and rouse up the crowds? I was going to manage this party the best I could and try to make it better, even if Brooklyn didn't like it. It would be weeks before I fully understand the financial shenanigans they were keeping the party on life support. Right around the time of the convention, the leaked emails revealed Hillary's campaign was grabbing money from the state parties for its own purposes, leaving the states with very little to support down-ballot races. As Politico reported on May 2nd, 2016, described the big fundraising vehicle she had launched through the states the summer before, quoting a vow she had made to rebuild the parties from the ground up. When our state parties are strong, we win. We win. That's how it happens. Yet the states kept less than half of 1% of the 82 million they had amassed from the extravagant fundraisers Hillary Clinton was holding, just as Gary had described to me when he and I talked in August. I'm gonna go a little forward to get off the money part of this. So she told Bernie about the fundraising agreement. Bernie took this stoically. He did not yell or express outrage. He asked me what I thought Hillary's chances were. The polls were unanimous in her winning, but what he wanted to know was my own assessment. I had to be frank with him. I did not trust the polls, I said. I told him I had visited states around the country, and I had found a lack of enthusiasm for her everywhere. I was concerned about the Obama coalition and about millennials. I urged Bernie to work as hard as he can to bring his supporters into the fold with Hillary and to campaign with all the heart and hope he could muster. He might find some of her positions too centrist, her coziness with the financial elites distasteful, but he knew, and I knew, that the alternative was a person who would put the very future of the country in peril. I knew he heard me, I knew he agreed with me, but I never in my life had felt so tiny and powerless. When I hung up the call to Bernie, I started to cry. Not of guilt, but out of anger. We should go forward. We had to. So that was Donna Brazile, former DNC chair, who basically did her own part in rigging the campaign against Bernie Sanders. And I'm not telling you all of this to relive the 2016 campaign, but I believe it's important so we know where we came from to know what we're getting into in 2020. So here's the thing. Donna Brazile conveniently left out of that little mea culpa, which, by the way, 24 hours after she published that, she started moonwalking away. Oh, I didn't say the primary was rigged. No, not rigged. Just one candidate controlling the neutral state party. Not rigged at all. So what's interesting, she left out, the DNC planting hit jobs on Bernie Sanders with NBC, CNN, MS, all of these channels, the New York Times. The Bernie Bros myth came from the DNC. Trying to paint Bernie Sanders as an atheist before the West Virginia primary, that came from the DNC. Setting the primary debates at only 6 debates came from Debbie Wasserman Schultz because she didn't want Hillary Clinton to have that much exposure. Because she knew the more Bernie Sanders had exposure, the more he would attract a larger voting base. So we are supposed to believe that, now, the super delegates have been weakened. Now they can't. And thank you. We got $25 from Anonymous on GoFundMe, $20 from Valerie on GoFundMe, $15 from Anonymous on GoFundMe. So now we're at $44,079. Thank you. Keep it coming if you can. This is to cover the campaign. The GoFundMe is to cover the campaign. Becoming a member is to cover the campaign. We are four paid members away from 200 paid members. Paid membership is how we're going to grow long term, and it's how we are going to get out in the field. It's how we're going to, some of you have complained about tech and audio and everything. We're trying to get better at all those things, but we need the funding. We also need to hire more people. Right now it's just me, Ty, and Jen is on leave right now. But right now, it's just us. It's 3 people trying to do the job of probably 20. So membership is how we grow. GoFundMe is how we go. And it's how we get larger funding. Because if we're going for larger funding, which I am, we need to show them, oh, we already have X amount of members. Between Patreon and membership, we now have 518 total between Patreon and membership. But that member number we're trying to grow. So we're at 4 away from 200. Become a member as low as $5 a month. $5 a month. So, or you could do more. You could do $5, $10, $20, or $147 annually. You get different things for different levels. So, if you think because superdelegates can now vote on the second ballot, if you think that because Tom Perez is the DNC chair, if you think that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are just going to sit off on the side and clap for all the participants, you got another thing coming. Remember, the Democratic Party was not expecting Bernie Sanders to explode. The Democratic Party did not have a lot of time to prepare for Bernie Sanders. The Democratic Party was kind of making up the rigging as they went along when it comes to Bernie Sanders. They've had 2.5 years now to prepare for Bernie 2.0. And you better believe they're prepared, because I firmly believe the Democratic Party, that would be Nancy Pelosi, that would be Chuck Schumer, that would be all of the donors, that would be Goldman Sachs, that would be JP Morgan, that would mean ExxonMobil, that would mean Pfizer, that would mean the big pharmaceutical companies, that would mean the big real estate developers, that would mean Silicon Valley. They would 100% prefer a re-elected Donald Trump to a President Bernie Sanders. Guaranteed. Because re-elected Donald Trump continues to give them a boogeyman. Yeah, he's going to do damaging things, but it won't upset the capitalist order. Donald Trump will not upset the capitalist order. Donald Trump is an oligarch and a plutocrat pretending to be a populist. And I think the jig is up. I think a lot of Donald Trump supporters are starting to have buyer's remorse. Not only did Donald Trump not reopen manufacturing plants, they're closing down still. Go look at my reporting and tie in my reporting on the road last week, talking to General Motors workers getting laid off, talking to other workers where their plants are closing. Donald Trump is smoke and mirrors and a racist. And I think it's great that Bernie Sanders, he's not teetering around. He's not saying, terms like, racial sentiment. He's calling him a racist. He's calling him a xenophobe. Yeah. He's calling him a bigot. He's calling him a misogynist. Other candidates are not. They're dancing around the word. The media, the Associated Press writes, tweets, were racially charged. There's no such thing as racially charged. It's either racist or it's not.
It's either racist or racial.
Right. So Bernie has balls, as Kelly put in there. And Kelly, I wanted to use an analogy because Kelly has not that, but courage. Because Kelly has been one of the leading supporters of status quo, financially and a moral boost. Always emailing, always donating. So thank you, Kelly. You're our number one cheerleader. I appreciate it. So how do you think Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi aren't in contact with media organizations to paint whatever hit job they want to paint on Bernie Sanders? Do you think that they are not actively, Democratic Party leaders, Democratic Party donors are not looking for more women to come out to paint Bernie Sanders as tone deaf, to paint Bernie Sanders as asleep at the switch, and to try and make a much, much, much bigger story out of, yes, women on his campaign staff have publicly went to Bernie and publicly to the media and said they were sexual harassment problems. Not accusing Bernie himself, but the campaign culture. And I think Bernie addressed it like any person should address it head on. He apologized. He said it was unacceptable. He said he wasn't aware of it, which is part of because you're running around the country and most candidates with a big staff are not directly knowing what's happening under them. That's why they have campaign managers and top level staff. But he apologized. He met with the women. Don't think that they're not going to try and make that a bigger story. Don't think that they are not going to try and paint Bernie Sanders as poisoning the well. Don't think they are not going to. The first time you see a poll where Kamala Harris is beating Bernie Sanders, don't think you're not going to see them painting Bernie Sanders as being disrespectful and tone deaf to the African American community, and that he should step aside. Don't think that's not going to happen, because it is. If Joe Biden was trailing Kamala Harris, oh, they wouldn't be saying that. But if Bernie Sanders is trailing Kamala Harris down the road, oh, they're going to be saying, you know, Bernie Sanders is trying to block the first woman president. Obviously, first woman president, but also black. It's all coming. Don't think that they're not going to try on the fly to plant things days, night before the debate against Bernie Sanders to try and make a big narrative out of it. Don't think, frankly, don't think it's just the Democratic Party. I fully expect, I'm looking in the camera right now. This is not to fearmonger. This is because this is what has been happening. Do not think that Google, which owns YouTube, do not think that YouTube, do not think that Facebook, do not think that name your digital social media outlet. Do not think that they will not throttle channels like this more. Do not think that they will not try to suppress channels like this more if Bernie Sanders picks up momentum. That is that's the age we're living in. We're living in a corporate coup d'etat of our government, of our media, of our digital media, and pretty much, I mean, we live in a surveillance state too. So if Bernie Sanders is picking up in the polls, if Bernie Sanders is doing better and better, which I expect him to, don't think that they are not going to try and drown his message out more than they did in 2016. That's another reason, frankly, why we are pushing paid membership to Status Coup. Not just so we have the revenue, but let's say down the road we get kicked off YouTube, or we get suppressed to the point that we have X amount of subscribers, but nobody knows when we're live. Nobody knows when we post videos. Nobody sees us, because nobody sees us on Facebook as it is. But let's say on YouTube they start drowning us out, and it's not just us. I think they're gonna try to do that to the Jimmy Dores of the world, to the Kyle Kalinskis of the world, to the Lee Camps of the world. They don't want not even Bernie's message out there, because I don't think that Jimmy has been critical of Bernie for certain things. Lee Camp has been critical of Bernie for certain things. They are going to drown out. Momentum it's an energy, whether it's in political campaigns, relationships, anything. Momentum is just an energy. And the way to drown out that energy is to make it disappear. So how do you make it disappear when it comes to a political movement? By drowning out voices, by drowning out independent media that show the voices of Bernie voters. You're already seeing what they're doing to Tulsi Gabbard.
But you know what? I wouldn't even say it's progressive voters. It's just that Bernie's
talking
progressive.
to the mic.
You see me falling asleep. But that's what I'm saying. Like, we say Bernie voters. It's not that they're Bernie voters. They're progressives. And they voting for the best progressive.
Stan, $20 in the GoFundMe. Now we're at $44,099.
I think it's worth saying the language, because it's when you say the Bernie vote, it almost seems like we are just a Bernie team. No, if there was someone else that was as progressive.
Are you not listening? That's what I just said.
I know but you use Bernie voters like it's not Bernie voters. They're progressive voters that's voting for Bernie.
I agree.
Thank you.
Todd, do you know that we're $900 away from 45,000 raised?
Really?
Do you know that we're 4 members away from 200 members?
I do now.
What do you think of that?
I think I love my crew. I love my crew. I love y'all.
And we were able to purchase key technological things yesterday. We purchased another lav mic, because you noticed that I'm holding the mic like this because we only have one mic. So now we have 2 lavalier mics. So it's going to look a lot more professional, sound a lot better. We got a GoPro camera, got some wires, some shit. It was great. So
The clips for the backdrop?
You need another mic for Ty. Have him co-host.
The clips for the backdrop?
Yeah, the clips for the backdrop.
No,
Matt.
I am co-hosting.
Yeah, he is co-hosting. Right now, he's sleeping on the couch because he didn't sleep last night. That's why you don't see him in this. But Ty co-hosted with me all day Sunday. Were you not there? Were you not there? Oh, let's show this.
Ooh, my leg is asleep. Getting old out here. I'm gonna hold it.
Am I blocking you from being on air, Ty?
No, you're good.
There we go. Oh, let's ask the audience if they like how it looks on the side.
Okay, it doesn't look good on the side.
I think it looks good, actually.
It doesn't.
It looks good to the left.
Don't pay attention to that because it's 10 seconds off. Just talk.
Oh, $20 super chat, Thomas. Thank you. Good work. So the key is.
It does kind of look good right there.
What do you guys think? I think it would look a little better to a little over.
I like it like that.
I don't care how you like it. I like it.
I think it look good like that.
What do you guys think? Oh, very nice. The left.
What?
Yeah, I think we should hang that up. What?
My leg.
Oh my God.
Sleep.
Yes, Ty left. Wow, with a white framing. To the full left so it doesn't get blocked when you move.
To the full left?
Try the other side, Lori says.
God damn it.
Don't use the Lord's name in vain with me.
My leg.
If Jordan puts on a man thong and airplane propeller nipple pasties, I'll donate $100. Donate 1,000. I'll put on nipple pasties.
What in the world is going on?
How cheap do you think I am? You're gonna get me $100 for nipple pasties? Are you crazy? Wait, they're telling you where they want it.
Yeah, they don't know.
But the point, 5,000 for nipple pasties. So the point is, it's not going to be enough, folks. I'm just keeping it real. So I'm going to make an analogy. You and I, to build this media organization, and obviously Jen has played a big part, we have to do the job of, we have to overcompensate.
Yeah.
We have to work harder than everybody else.
Yeah, but that and it comes with the territory. You know, it's a startup, so you have to grind, and like you know, we want it to be successful. So you know, you got to just put in the work. That's why I've been up trying to do things and take some initiative. We had an initiative talk.
Yeah, because Ty doesn't have any initiative, so I've had to put it into him. And I gave you a status quo hat, and you just discarded it.
You didn't give me no status quo.
I did.
What are you talking about?
You left it in my mom's car.
Oh.
So the key is move to the left. Me move to the left?
Talk. We good.
Yeah, we're gonna once we get more members, once we get more GoFundMe, we're gonna have a little different bit of a setup. But the key is Bernie Sanders needs more than volunteers. Bernie Sanders, by the way, not just Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, frankly Warren, who's not as progressive as those two, but I mean, I know you. A lot of you don't like me saying it, but I would take, I would take Elizabeth Warren in a second over Donald Trump.
Well, of course.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. These people saying, "Well, no, she's just another Hillary." She's not Hillary.
No,
she's.
But hey, this is what we talked about the other day, though, right? I was like, you know what? When she endorsed Hillary in 2016, I felt that she went against her heart, and that bothers me because if you have someone that votes or go away based on that's something that's other than their heart, that means they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're maybe doing it for their political career, and we don't want that. Because I feel like if there's no way she could have endorsed Hillary when she was talking something else. We had to damn near hit Hillary with a bat to push her left. You know what I mean? And she did that, and I know she did that.
Just do me a favor.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No. Just do me a favor. Neera Tanden might be watching, so I don't want to endorse hitting Hillary Clinton with a bat.
Okay, well, we ain't talking about what. So
we don't want to hit you with a bat, Hillary.
No, that's not what I said. But
that is what you said.
No, I didn't. I said we almost had to hit her with a bat to get her to the left. It was like just rough. It was an analogy. They ain't stupid. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but look, this is what I'm saying. Like Elizabeth Warren, like she hurt my heart. You know what I'm saying? Because she did that. She didn't even address Standing Rock till like December 12th after Barack said something. You know what I mean? That means she's like preoccupied with her career. I can't get it. You know what? If I only if I can only do 4 years because I want to help change my community, that's all I'm getting in. Hopefully my district feel what I'm doing and they can feel it and they bring me back in. But if I'm about the people, then I guess I'm going to do 4 years. If the 4 years is going to get me out because I'm going against the establishment, then that's what I'm doing because it's for the people.
I like that.
My arm hurt, huh?
Yeah, we got to get Ty. Ty's got a lot of problems. His neck, his arm. He's got a little gas that is a problem.
No, that was a sound.
Ty's been leaving natural gas all over my apartment. So what I'm saying is, I mean, you need way more than election, poll observers when it comes to Bernie Sanders or Tulsi Gabbard, frankly. You are going to need, and Bernie is going to need, and I believe his campaign has actually planned for this, you're going to need a rapid response army to not after the primaries, before the primaries. Not point out, but raise a goddamn stink about the registration.
You need to be proactive, not reactive.
Right, the registration deadline suddenly changing.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, polls are getting shut down that weren't shut down before. Like Rhode Island, when the governor of Rhode Island, who's Hillary Clinton's BFF, closes down 60% of the polls in Rhode Island.
I didn't know that.
Before an open primary. You should have watched me. Yeah, 2016.
I remember they were talking about that.
So,
Nikki was.
And frankly, I'm keeping it real. If Senator Sanders is watching, this is on him. Enough with the
being nice, patty.
Yeah, enough with I just want to win on the issues and run a positive campaign. Bernie, this isn't Switzerland, okay?
Yeah.
This is a mafia. This is a mafia political system.
And you're being honest, dog. That's what they did. What you're talking about is what they did. Give it to them. Put it in their face. Because they did it. They made a conscious effort to do something, and if it compromises their run for president, you expose it.
So, for example, Bernie Sanders, if Kamala Harris wants to publicly say, I'm not a Democratic socially, in a very condescending way, you need to say respectfully, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
You're a capitalist. And, frankly, you haven't exactly been strong on these issues for too long, and you kind of seem to be moonwalking away from those issues. So, when it comes to Kirsten Gillibrand and Cory Booker, Bernie Sanders needs to not say, oh, my kind friends here on the other side. No. Cory Booker and Kirsten Gillibrand have accepted bribes from the banking industry you
all know about what Cory Booker did with the pharmaceutical. He voted against lowering the price of certain medicines in this state. He voted against it, and it was only for his career because he knows a large amount of the pharmaceutical companies are there.
Mm-hmm. Not just his state. It was going to help everyone. Yeah. Bernie Sanders needs to not there's a way of saying things where it's politically harsh, but it's not quote unquote a personal attack.
Yeah, everybody trying to say just like what Donna Brazile did. She tried to say, "Oh, you're going to attack a woman." I'm asking you a question about what you did, and you're telling me I'm attacking women.
Your friend Donna Brazile that you hung out with at a bar?
Oh yeah, me and Donna Brazile had a drink together.
Why don't you tell people about that?
Me and Donna Brazile had a drink together at when the DNC chair race. Me and Nomiki followed it. We had a drink together. She's nice, especially when she's
She said she didn't think TYT.
Yeah, we asked her for an interview initially. She was like, "Y'all don't treat me right."
But then Nomiki got an interview with her.
Yeah,
if you want to call it that.
Come on,
don't. If you want to call
don't
that.
Do that.
But the bottom line is, you're going to need an army around Bernie Sanders and independent media, not just to tweet in anger at the rigging that is going on, but to get out in the streets before the primaries happen. Okay? If you want a fair election, you're going to have to fight for a fair election because you're not going to get one. Yeah. I'm not talking about physical fights. I'm not talking about violence. But let me tell you something. There was one protest at outside CNN headquarters in 2016 election. It was in Los Angeles. I believe the Young Turks covered it.
In Hollywood.
You are going to need way more than one protest outside media outlets because the media needs to be shamed and put on blame for the disinformation they are putting out. The biggest problem is not Russian information. The biggest disinformation is coming from United States Democratic state-run media.
Period. And y'all think that our elections was the first time it was rigged in 2016? Are you tripping? Are you tripping? These elections been rigged. They just mad they didn't do it. That's
right.
all.
That's right. So the bottom line is this. Bernie Sanders, if he wants a chance, yes, he has to build a grassroots organization, which he already has done. But the time for being nice, the time for going to a knife fight holding a spoon, Bernie Sanders needs to get down in the mud. You could be nice and you could be kind and you could be a nice diplomatic guy when you become the nominee. And then because you're not going to play
become the president.
You're not going to play nice with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So why would you play nice with these people?
Yeah.
Because they're not Bernie Sanders. What I'm politely telling you as a journalist, these are sociopaths you're dealing with. Cory Booker is a pretty-looking, kind-talking sociopath. It takes a sociopath to knowingly block things that could save lives. That's a sociopath. Am I wrong?
I wouldn't say sociopath because no. Just let me tell you why.
Ty the apologist.
No, the only reason I said that because if you have a culture of people that do things, everyone that comes in that's funneled in, they are taught to do the same thing. When you're just doing it, it's not. You're thinking that that's the way to go. You're not really thinking. You're selfish, and you're not being you're not like thinking about the complexities of it. You're thinking about this is how Washington operates, and this is how we operate. So it's hard to say they're sociopaths because the sociopath is intentional.
That's not necessarily true.
A sociopath, yes, they know they're manipulative. They know exactly what they're doing. Read the definition.
Okay, we'll have to look that up. But the bottom line is, the way that Bernie Sanders wins this election, you're going to have to do more than knock on doors if that's your choice to do that.
What up, Colin?
You're going to need more. You're going to need more than just to donate. Bernie Sanders is going to need a revolutionary army, a peaceful one, to not after the primary is rigged, before any of these primaries, to get out there and to demand certain things. Demand equal coverage to Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, or all these people. Demand that you don't just have Democratic Party elites as pundits on there, but you have Bernie Sanders supporters, voters, and surrogates on all of these networks. Demand that these voter registration deadlines are moved closer to Election Day, not further away from Election Day.
Yes, Lord.
Demand that I don't even want to hear from any superdelegates. I don't want to hear about them on TV. I don't want to hear about them in the papers because they might have moved it to the second.
Remember, y'all had that meeting in Las Vegas. You better stick to it.
They don't just because they've moved the superdelegates to the second ballot. It doesn't mean they're not going to try to manipulate the process.
They make loopholes. They make loopholes. Loophole is almost like it was an accident and someone was able to exploit it. But no, they put that in place for themselves. They know what they're doing. They're career criminals. Damn, is that like calling them sociopaths?
Yeah, 100%. So the bottom line is this. The bottom line is this.
I knew he was going to say it twice.
Yeah, I have a redundancy problem. You're not going. This is not a fair fight. It's not a naturally fair fight. Okay, you're not going. I guarantee you that infomercial you saw with Kamala Harris on CNN, that infomercial that you saw, God knows why they gave Howard Schultz a town hall. That infomercial you just saw with Don Lemon last night with Amy, eat your broccoli, nothing great is possible, Klobuchar.
You know what?
Wolf Blitzer.
Think about where we would be at.
Wolf Blitzer, they're actually doing a town hall with Bernie Sanders on Monday. So kudos to CNN. They're doing the right thing. You think Wolf Blitzer is going to be the same lifeless mannequin with Bernie Sanders as he is everybody else?
They're always aggressive with Bernie. They're always aggressive. But let me tell you this. Everyone is saying what we can't do and it's a pie in the sky. You know what? Think about where we would be right now if FDR thought that. If FDR said, you know what, this is a pie in the sky, we can't do it. Where would we be if JFK said, going to the moon is a pie in the sky? I don't know. No. We make the decision to do it and then we figure it out. We always do.
Yes. Is it pie in the sky for us to get 4 more paid members while we're live?
No.
I don't think so. Become a member. We're almost at 200. Statuscoup.com/join.
Excuse my eyes. I'm trying to keep them up, but I'm tired.
Yeah, we're ending soon. So the bottom line is this. There will be an army. There will be a necessary army to not just for Bernie to become a nominee, not just for Bernie to become president, but for Bernie Sanders not to be stomped on by a capitalist criminal oligarchy. Because it's not just the media. It's not just Nancy and Chuck Schumer. It's not just Google. It's the interconnection between all of them. It's not all of them working on their own to screw Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
It's not all of them working on their own to screw the progressive movement. It's all of them working together.
And this is probably a bad example, but a good example of what he's saying is what happened with Alex Jones. Like, that wasn't a coincidence that all those platforms stopped the same day. I'm telling you. Hey, pay attention, man. And another thing, I know it's 2020, but please don't just focus on a presidential race, because if Bernie Sanders wins and he goes in and we lose the House and the Senate, his back is against the wall. We got to also make sure that he has control, that he can push things forward. But you know what's crazy is that even if the Democrats had, still had the House and had the Senate, let's say Bernie Sanders, they'll probably fight against Bernie more than Republicans. You know what I mean?
I agree. Somebody asked us, oh man, how will this army be organized? The army we organize for Bernie must then be used to build stronger institutions. Well, I'm a journalist, not a commander, so I can't tell you how to organize, but I will tell you this. Everything starts in your community.
Yes.
So there's Our Revolution chapters. There's Democratic Socialists of America chapters. There's Black Lives Matter chapters. There's Name Your Pick chapters. And together, both as individual blocks, but also working together nationally, which I think is part of what Bernie's campaign needs to help organize. There needs to be a rapid response where if something is going basically corrupt, when it's found out before a primary. So every voter registration deadline needs to be looked at. We need to see who are on the boards of elections in these places and what connections do they have to the candidates, because that's important. Board of Elections decide. I mean, with input of governors, but Board of Elections decide voter registration deadlines, how many polling places to keep open, and those kinds of things.
Young Butter McKenzie said earlier that she wanted us to go to her house and get drunk and get high and cake, and she think will be fun. We can't do that. Look, let me tell you, and another thing too, you brought up those organizations. Listen, we need to stop counseling people. Like, no one's all the way one way. You can't say because someone did one thing wrong, like, forget Black Lives Matter because this one thing happened, or forget our revolution because they did one thing that didn't agree with what, like, we will lose everything if we counsel people out because they did one thing that went against whatever you think progressiveness is. Like, every progressive don't feel the same way about every issue, and we can't counsel people out because of that. You know what I mean? Like, we got to stop that. You have to, or you're gonna be alone. You know what I mean? We do. You have to stop that and work together. I remember we were in New York last year, and the New York chapter of Black Lives Matter was talking bad about that land. I'm like, come on, man. We got to be together, dog. Maybe they, for Black Lives Matter, a lot of times it's an organization, so politics is local for that. They have to do things different, maybe because their community's different. You can't counsel people out. Like, we got to stick together.
So, with that, I will be back at 5 p.m. Eastern time today for a little double duty today. My normal time is 5 p.m., so we'll be back. We'll have a little bit more of the response to Bernie Sanders' announcement, some other news. Remember, folks, status quo, although we have a lot of support, that doesn't equate to a lot of funding. We are not taking shortcuts. Trust me, I've had a few options to take shortcuts financially by taking money from some not so wonderful progressive individuals. Bottom line is, we're doing something radical, and that's just asking you to support us. So,
and you have been.
Yes, and thank you for supporting us.
You know what? When was the last time they saw the Status Coup trailer?
I don't know. Put it up.
I don't know where it is. You don't want to get it quick. I was
looking
for it yesterday.
Because it's super important. Super important.
What does your drink order say about
it's
you?
super important.
Budweiser Reserve Copper Lager.
It's super important that we have not just like GoFundMe contributions, but consistent revenue coming in. Because if we have consistent revenue coming in, then we don't have to worry about, we got to go to New Hampshire, or how are we going to go to New Hampshire or Iowa or South Carolina, or name your pick. I got it. So the way we do that is through you. You got to, obviously, if you don't have it in your budget, we understand. If you can't do it, you can't do it. But if you can, honestly, at this point, the days of free media, unfortunately, are done. And look what you've gotten for free media, mostly. A bunch of propaganda and junk. So if you want real independent media that's going to go out and give voters and give activists and give local politicians and give actual breathing people that actually are going to decide this election, not pundits, but actual living, breathing people who are going to decide this election, a voice to spotlight corruption. By the way you break news on corruption is going to where it is. I'm not going to find out major things by sitting on my computer in New York. Going to Detroit, going to Flint,
that shit.
That's how you find out. That's how I broke stories on Flint and other places, by being there.
You got to be there with the people.
So we're not asking you to support us because, we do need to eat.
And you know that. And they know that too. They know why they're here. They know why they're here.
So we'll end with our promo video. We'll see you at 5 o'clock. Again, we might have gotten more since I last looked, but we're 4 members away from 200. So it's statuscoup.com/join. Become a member as low as $5 to $10 a month. We'll see you at 5 o'clock. We're ending where we started.
Ending where we started. Hey.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We're in tonight with the president not saying something, not tweeting, not punching back. Nothing at all about Stormy Daniels.
I don't like that people like when I'm with you more than when I'm not.
Lock us up at the gates of hell and we won't back down. We will stand our ground.
Our kids breaking out in blisters.
Lock us up at the gates of hell and we won't back down. We will stand our ground.
The government and the media would rather focus on the president's tweets, scary boogeymen from Russia, instead of people being poisoned.
We were driving up and we started seeing the lines to this church here. A lot of the churches in Flint are distribution centers for free bottled water.
It's sad to see that 4 years later, we're still going through the same thing as if it happened 3 months ago.
They said, oh, your water's totally clear for lead, it's fine. There's no way for them to know that.
I really do believe that this water, from us consuming all of this stuff, that is what caused my miscarriages.
I'm all broke out. I have picked my own pictures. I'm all broke out. I'm diabetic. I have like whelps. And this is from the water.
Eric Cherry was killed on the streets of Chicago at 16 years old. That's my grandson.
We saw 24-year-old Maurice Granton shot in the back while running for police.
Right now, there is a hunt, and black boys are the prey.
When it was communities who are mostly wealthy, mostly white, it's like the pain is felt. But with something about our communities where I see our youth having to fight, literally needing support to get the rest of the world to understand that the everyday shootings they have to see and go right back to school after their friend was killed is just as painful. Like literally having to convince society that we can't take more pain, that we can't take this no more.
Polluting the water. Since when is profit more important than water? When is profit more important than people?
Hey, it's Jordan. I'm here in Flint, Michigan. I am here on Lakeshore Drive here in Chicago. I am here live in Dallas. Beautiful, Virginia. Hey, it's Jordan. I'm live in Arlington, Texas. Look at this destruction. You're not going to see this anywhere. You think CNN's coming up here? Please. Yeah, if you could prove Putin cut down the trees, they'll be here in a jiffy.
Status Coup. Is now it's going to be called? Is it going to be statuscoup.com?
Yes. Most people are not lacking compassion. Most people do not know what the fuck is going on.